Right, we're back. It's going to be another episode of Summoning Insight. I will say, because I like to break the fourth wall, but the difference is I do it in a way where it's actually like respectful. I don't just degrade my audience like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. So what I would say is this. I do actually tell Monty, to be fair, that I actually do think, because if you know how my shows run, I just keep trying to book them every week, basically, as long as the guests are available, as long as the co-hosts available. I would personally do shows every single week. The difference is, though, other people don't always want to do that. Because the thing is, to me, what you do is this, Monty. I actually think the obvious thing you do is you just tie in the historical stuff. Like what you do is, like after this MSI, what you could have done is done an episode like what was the best international tournament ever in League. So you could do like that, or do some that sort of an angle. So I do hope in future we will do that. But whatever. For now, we pretended like we're Euphoria / The Dive. Just had a week off, didn't we? So it's all good.
Well, we probably are going to do 48 episodes.
Away, to be fair, he had to travel. He's gone back to Korea.
So I not only had to travel, but I had to move apartments. So there was even more of a reason than usual. So I had to change apartments while I was in Korea because, you know what, Thorin, I thought I was going to be here for like 6 months, but I'm going to be here for a lot longer than that, it turns out. So,
what is that like? Okay. Is there any reason you can tell us?
Oh yeah. I mean, the reason why we came out here was because, my family's planning on moving to Colorado in the States eventually. But in the interim, basically, when we were leaving LA, we thought, hey, we have some time. We're never going to be able probably to live in Korea again once our kids get into school. So why not just head out to Korea for a little bit?
The grandparents are there and all that, right?
Yeah. My wife's parents are here. And also we wanted our kids to be fluent in Korean. So we put our older kid into like Korean kindergarten. So he's actually getting really good at Korean now. Yeah. He's learning a lot. So basically, like, we wanted to stay longer to make sure that he's fluent in Korean so he understands his culture. And then, we'll go back maybe in a year or so. So we had
my volume super low, by the way.
Oh, I will turn your volume up.
Compared to yours, apparently. We'll see.
Yeah, we got it. There we go. Should be better now.
Okay.
But yeah, sorry guys. I also had to move my computer, so my setup might have gotten...
just realised the more straight fire joke as well. Here's the joke for you guys. I'll now tie it into the irreverent humour that is Summoning Insight. So the obvious joke is Monty just... Monty's not really that much of an anti-authoritarian figure. He just respects like that, Kim Jong, whatever is it. What's actually the name of the guy who's the
Kim Jong-un
caster in Korea?
No. Oh God, that's a dictator.
What's Kim? Kim, what's it?
Kim Dong-jun.
Donjun, that's it, right? So the guy who's the main, the guy who basically comes out at the beginning of every LCK thing, goes like, then gets everyone super hyped up, right? The joke is, I always roast Monty because obviously he doesn't know what that guy's actually saying. Well, he might know what he's saying at the intro thing, but he doesn't know what he's casting because he's speaking so fast. The joke is, Monty's kid actually will understand Korean, and just to hurt Monty's feelings, if you're ever watch this episode back, to hurt your dad's feelings, just tell him that Kim Jong-un, Don Jun is way better at casting than he was. There you go. Because you'll actually understand the language. You could say if it's true or not. That's the evil shit your kid will say if you want to. In fact, I've just realised, you haven't even thought this through. If your kid ever rebels, he's just going to tell you some shit like Freak was better at analysing League or something, isn't he? That's how he's going to hurt your feelings, Monty. I had to go like some weird route to hurt my parents' feelings. Saying some shit about them being a boomers. So, like, they're just going to get you with like really specific shit,
Well, I think, Thorin, the thing about that is that they're just going to call me a boomer for even playing League in the first place. Probably. Because,
True.
like I said on I said on Power Spike, I've been doing some work in the high school scene in America. And so I went to when I was in Colorado.
League, right?
Literally, Thorin, you'll love this.
Yeah.
Most high schools can't even get enough kids together into a team to play League of Legends anymore.
Fucking hell.
So it's completely
what a wasted opportunity. They had like 10 plus years to get it done. I feel like as well, for real, if you'd have done it, like, I don't even think it's that long ago, like the ship sailed. I feel like you could still, even 4 or 5 years ago, have gotten like a pretty good groundswell if you'd have gone hard,
Well, I think what the problem with exclusivity to Play Versus, and spoilers, guys, I'm doing some work for Play Versus, but they changed their management. And then they would charge schools for using it. So basically a lot of schools wouldn't pay, so then they wouldn't use Play Versus, but they couldn't play League of Legends unless they were on Play Versus. So I think Riot kind of screwed themselves in that one by giving exclusivity over to Play Versus. And by the way, they invested in Play Versus. So they invested in Play Versus, gave it exclusivity, and then ruined the high school experience. Very good. But Play Versus is a lot better now, guys. They don't charge high schools anything. High schools famously not having a lot of money, especially to pay thousands of dollars a year to a company to run esports tournaments. Now it's free, so it's a lot better. But, Thorin, we should talk about we have a grab bag of topics this week. We haven't ever actually talked about the LPL format, which is, I think, very interesting.
We'll do that, yeah.
On the show, we also have the changes to the format of the LCS. We have the $500. It's actually not $500. It's like
we did sort of address that a bit on the last one, but we can talk about that. Obviously now we know like the specifics. Here's the thing though, Monty, what you're saying basically is that on Summoning Insight, it's all about the summer. Well, you know what, Monty? When the summer comes around, there are a lot of activities that people like to partake in outdoors, including myself. And you know what? Summoning Insight is proudly sponsored by Liquid IV. And since summer is the time, like I say, for getting out in the sun, hydration becomes even more important. And it's not just about water. You have to think of water as the vehicle to get other things inside your body, inside your cells, actually, if you don't know. So you need electrolytes, essential vitamins, and in this case of Liquid IV, clinically tested nutrients. So whether that be a trip to the beach, hiking, playing sports, what do you actually like, Monty? What do you actually do in the summer for real?
Well, I do enjoy hiking.
Are you a hiking guy or something?
I'm outside all the time just because I'm with my kids these days. So, and
sure,
running around. So I'm actually outside for hours and hours and hours at a time. So easy to slap this stuff into a water bottle. Use it still when I'm working out. I actually brought a massive bag of it back with me from the States to Korea as well.
It's so light in it, yeah.
Yeah. So I brought back like a bunch of suitcases, had a huge bag of this because I was running low here in Korea. So I'm all set up again for the next few months until I can get back into the States and pick up some more. So if you are in the States or a country, I also hear, Thorin, I've heard from our audience that you can actually buy it in shops in the UK now. So they're starting, I don't know if you can buy it. I don't know if you can buy it online in the UK, but they've started selling it in stores in the UK, I know.
Sounds plausible. I will say every time I go back to the UK, they have way more things there that like they never had before. Like, I won't make a commercial about those things, but some of them are like some of the fast food brands and stuff actually blow my mind in like London now. They're actually like full on American ones that were never there before. By the way, though, I would say my main activity that I'm going to use this for, like I've told people I do work out anyway. Look, I don't brag about it because I'm not in amazing shape, so I don't like to be obnoxious. Jacob. Oh, that's it out loud. Yeah, we're doing that out loud thing, dickhead. After you call me out, I'll call you out forever. That's how this works in esports. Is it first day? So anyway, I would say the main activity I'm actually going to use this for this summer is actually unironically go to the beach. That's actually one thing, and maybe it's getting older that I've gotten more into, Monty, is I never got, when I was a kid, I was always like a lot of men, I was very task oriented. So my thing would be like, what are we going to do at the beach though? We're going to like play a game. No, I actually get the value now, just chilling out on the beach, just having a walk,
reading a book.
Enjoying the aesthetics, lying back in the sun and being warmed, read a book, talk to someone, just have an excuse to have a really chill environment. And I can tell you what, since you are obviously going to be like dehydrated in this setting, you're going to need to drink something. You're going to bring some water anyway. All you do is bring along the little packet. You just need 16 ounces or more. But here's the other thing as well. When they say 16 ounces, that's their guide. Put less if you want it to taste stronger. Put more water if you want it to taste weaker. Obviously, adjust to your tastes. All you need is the little packet, like Monty says. They come in little sachets. They're super easy to carry. You can just have one in your pocket. It's not going to break open. You have to actually tear it like properly. It's like a metallic thing to get it all out. And the reason why Liquid IV is the best is it has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drinks, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients in each of the aforementioned sticks. And obviously, another thing you can use it for is during the summer, people have been known to stay up late, dancing, having a crazy time. And obviously, this would be a great way the next day to refuel, as it were. So it's simple. You just mix it in with the water, like I say. Loads of flavored choices, by the way. That's actually one thing I would highlight, because I like when I do like both working out and sometimes I eat keto, I like to have the sugar-free ones. And I have to say, there's a bunch of flavors there. Some of those ones, I actually think the sugar-free ones have the best flavors. I think they're delicious. Like the lemon lime one's really good. I actually think the raspberry melon one is really delicious. Green grape. Actually, by the way, the other thing is these flavors are all really distinct. They're actually like really, really different from each other. They're not like one that's like slightly different or whatever. Like they actually have done a really good job of balancing out the fact that obviously electrolytes can be a bit salty, can't they? So I think they actually do a really good job sort of like picking a flavor that somehow like offsets that and makes it nice in its own right. So what about you? What are the things you enjoy?
I mean, I like the yuzu pineapple one and the caffeinated one because I like the caffeinated one because I don't use pre-workout. So when I go work out, it's nice to have a little bump of the caffeine before I go. So that's what I use that one for. And I think the yuzu pineapple one is awesome.
Yeah. See, we all also, if you notice, if you go back and check past episodes, we have always suggested different flavors. We have our own, despite what people might say about this show, it's not a homogenous show. We actually have our own personalities, distinct, and sometimes even disagree. So anyway, turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code LFN at checkout, because LFN obviously stands for Last Free Nation. That's us. The drink is Liquid IV. We're LFN. You see where I'm going with this? So that's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today. You don't have to do it today, but do it right now. It's easy, and then you won't forget about it. Using the promo code LFN, again, that's us, at liquidiv.com, that's them. And then you get the product and then send it to you. See? So there we go, kids. I think we've done it all there. Sesame Street, count 1, 2, 3, ABC, all that. Now we're back. Now we're back into somebody.
All right. So what do you want to start with? You want to start with LCS, LPL, $500?
Wait, I'll tell you actually an underrated aspect of Liquid IV as well, which is just totally self-indulgent, which is this won't matter to normal people. But if you actually do anything like we do for a job, it's also really good if you talk a lot on camera, because if you only drink water, then you get like dehydrated eventually. It sort of strips everything out. So I actually find I like to mix it in like 1 out of every 3 drinks. If I have like 2 things of water, I'll always come later in the day if I've got like a second or third shot. I'll always have a Liquid IV too. I also find it's good in that sense, you know. So underrated like esports industry angle there for you guys.
every use possible.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
I think here's how we'll do it. We'll do it this way. We'll actually start with the RE skin, because since last week we did, 2 weeks ago, whatever, we did address this topic. Like we guessed it all, Monty. Literally, like think about it, right? This whole thing of like this skin. If our speculation, right, to people who don't know Riot or the esports industry, we're like, wow, what a bitter, you know, like incredibly cynical take. Like, you think it's all just a money grab? No, they're just celebrating greatness and Faker, bro. And then it turns out like the skin is like $500, like equivalent in RP. Like, guys, like, would it actually have to also just sort of say like, fuck you Mark, in the email that you like get when you buy it for us to be more right? Like, dude, this is like the double if Lena thing. It's like they couldn't make us look more right. Like in that scenario, if it had come out and it was like $20, we'd look like dickheads. But like now, everyone, even I've noticed even Riot casters are just acknowledging like it's just a cash grab, in it. Like everyone seems to just agree now. It's hilarious.
Well, I think it's really outrageous because, you know, we wondered, and look, I'm not married to doing things the old way just because it's been done that way in terms of honoring players after they retire to be in a Hall of Fame. I mean, Faker is clearly going to end up in any esports Hall of Fame, not even just League of Legends Hall of Fame. He would be instantly inducted now if he retired now. So I'm not necessarily against the immediate induction, but the thing is, you have to tell me why we're doing it now. Why are we changing the tradition and inducting him during his career? And the answer, unfortunately, as you say, is simply cynical money grabbing. And like, there's not a reason why he has to be inducted now. You didn't give me any. I mean, there's a documentary coming out, Thorin, apparently about him. Which might be good, but of course we could have done that when he retired as well. I mean, I'm excited to see some of his, you know, former teammates and like Kuro, his great rival during like 2015, 2016, talking to him. Like, it looks really good. And it looks like they used a good production company for it. I think it definitely has a lot of potential. And honestly, I mean, I saw our friend, Mr. Narrative, Fion, tweeting about this, that he actually went back and watched like all of the pivotal games of Faker's career. And part of the battle pass system that they have is that you kind of revisit parts of his career if you buy the pass, which is cool. Like, I agree. But again, did this need to be done right now? And the answer...
You mean when I'm paying $500?
No. You pay like $20, but anyway.
Oh, whatever. But to interactively engage with an interactive version of the article Fion wrote 700 times about Faker. Like, so let me guess. First thing you experience is the niddly fucking whatever, like ambition kill on Kha'Zix. Then you go straight to like the ZV. What I love about Fion is like, he is like fucking the Rolling Stones, mate. If you go and see him, he's definitely going to play a jumping jack flash, satisfaction. Like, he'll never veer from the script. In a way, I can appreciate that one. You know, I was trying to do all the things, but he's true blues for Fion. He's true blue.
You know, I'm not buying the battle pass, so I can't speak to it. But I do think it's important because obviously the headline of this was like,
it's a good idea in premise.
And it is, to be clear, not a $500 Ari skin. It is a $450 Ari skin, just to be technical about it. And also, there is a $50-ish Ari skin that's the lowest level one. It's only like the most expensive one that is that one. So they offer different tiers of the R skin. They offer 3 different tiers at varying prices. But if you buy the battle pass, you get his LeBlanc skin, which is also included in that, which is $20. So it is more accessible, and you can unlock more stuff as it goes along. So I just want to be clear, because I do think that rightfully so, the outrageously priced skin grabbed a lot of headlines. But there is a more reasonable option that is more interactive with Faker's and in my opinion, celebratory of his career. That is at a normal human price point. So they did kind of include something for everybody, and it's clear they're going after whales for this. And if you look at gacha games, like obviously a lot of these Asian gacha games have extraordinarily expensive skins, and guess what? People must be buying them because that's why all these companies put them out there, right? And I think in Asia too, people are more willing to spend a lot of money on rare digital goods because it's seen as more cool or socially acceptable. Whereas obviously in the West, we have a very different cultural reaction to that, which is like, lol, why would you buy that? But I mean, if Chinese people are going to be happy as a result of this skin, and Korean people and whoever knows who else, like,
here's my problem, Monty.
I wouldn't pay for this.
Why you have to gaslight me about the Hall of Legends part? Like, why can't you just make a skin that costs whatever and Faker gets a car, make a thing that celebrates his career? This is all great ideas, by the way. My problem is, because it's all tied together, though, I notice a lot of other people in the industry, Monty, start to make this point. I don't think they probably saw me on Side Select make it. They just independently arrived by parallel thinking at the same thought. I saw people like, I think maybe like Grabs or Peter Don or someone said something similar. Because the immediate concern I have about the fact that you're only doing it for Faker, so one person at the moment, even though, by the way, the backlog for a Hall of Fame, guys, would be like 100 names deep. Like, we've had like 10 plus years of it, like, every region in the world. So the backlog that we need to get through is massive. So the idea we're doing one at a time and we're doing Faker now. And because this is why, Monty, the fact that they're doing it cynically while he's playing and then putting a massively priced set of stuff for Wales is why I'm concerned, because that is almost the opposite of the incentive structure that you would have for a Hall of Fame. A Hall of Fame is supposed to be about honoring the greatness in the game and the past, right? But they're trying to make it incredibly topical now to make loads of money. So here's the first obvious problem I have. Even though I actually do think also you should put people in an order. Like, Faker didn't even play League of Legends until 2013. So to me, the first names in your Hall of Legends for League of Legends, Monty, would literally be these names. It would be like Expeke. He was literally the Season 1 champion, guys, and then did all those other great things. It would be like Mad Life. That'd be the first Korean name, by the way. Mad Life, easily. What are you talking about? He was probably the first true icon of the global game. Even if you want another Korean, Ambition, there's an obvious one for you. Chuck that one in. If you want later people, there's obviously a load of them, Deft, etc., but they're obviously in Faker's era, you know. So you put these names, but the problem is, Monty, no one's going to put any of those three names I just said there, because you're not going to make thousands and millions of dollars off them. You can't make a $500 skin for Mad Life and get us all to buy it. So you see the flaw. And then also, as well as that aspect, the other thing I'm concerned about is if you go in one at a time like this, like, I'll just say it straight up, I don't believe it's a real thing. I don't believe there is a Hall of Legends, Monty. I think Hall of Legends will just be an incredibly small thing where, like, 1 year from now, maybe then they do Deft because he's still active or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think they'll just do it like really slowly, and it'll just be an excuse. Like, here's my problem essentially. I don't believe it's a Hall of Legends which happens to have a really cool, expensive package attached. I think it's the other way around. I think this is an excuse to do this fucking package, etc., and to sell it. But you're dressing it up as what I care about, like celebrate history. But I just don't think you're going to do it. Like, those names I just said, I don't think they're ever going to be in Hall of Fame. I don't think, by the way, Doublelift can ever get one of these. Like, he'd be considered irrelevant to Riot, you know.
Well, I mean, he should be irrelevant if at the rates that they're putting people in, because they've said now that they're doing one of these a year, and like, he will never get in based off of that. I mean, the obvious next, and it's the thing too, Thorin, is it's not really about celebrating people's careers, because Faker is the obvious one, but the question is, where do you go for number two? And the answer is, it's obviously going to be Uzi. Does Uzi deserve?
Just because the Chinese angle as well, mate.
Of course.
It's just going to be obvious.
Of course.
Reasons, yeah.
So it just becomes a cynical cash grab, and it's not actually about doing things in the proper order. It's not about celebrating the top players. And to be clear, guys, Uzi absolutely should be in a League of Legends Hall of Fame. That's not the question. The question is he the second person that should go in? And the answer is probably not. Honestly.
And you notice, as you inferred, the real reason you're picking him second is because, one, he's Chinese, and two, he's also insanely famous. He might make loads of money. That can't be, like, you can't actually have a Hall of Fame where you sit down like, hey, Monty, should we put this guy from the 60s? 60s, who gives a shit about him? We're not making any money off him now. Like,
Put in LeBron
here's the analogy
now.
for you guys. The analogy would be like, I'm going to make a ridiculous one just to be stupid, but this would be like if you just make that Caitlin Clark girl everyone's going on about who just joined the WNBA. Well, logically, you'd make fucking loads of money right now. You did something celebrating like a shirt.
Yeah.
But what's the point in putting like, you know, some old like fucking Candace Parker from like 10, 15 years ago, who at the time was like the best player? No one would give a shit now, would they? Well, the point there is that's okay if your thing is just let's make some money off a player. But if your thing was let's celebrate the WNBA, you're going to have a pretty fucked up, skewed history, aren't you, if you're ignoring all the great players because they can't make you any Skrilla today? Because, by the way, like I said, that's why I say you can disconnect it. I'm totally fine with I'm not anti-capitalist, right? I can make all the money they want. If anything, that also irritates me, Monty. I fucking despise when people like Riot just turn around and use the arguments that we used against them. So what Riot is now going to wait until 2024 and then tell us, Monty, hey, why can't we make skins where like pros get a share? It's like, you're telling me that, motherfucker. I was telling you that the whole time. Like, I actually don't understand for real why in actually 2013 Mad Life didn't have a Blitzcrank skin that we all... By the way, Monty, you think we all wouldn't have bought the Mad Life Blitzcrank skin, the Matter Thresh skin, the fucking Flame, like, I don't know, Diana skin, or whatever, or Kennen skin, or whatever. We would all have bought this shit if it was out at the time. If that was like the popping shit for the best player in the world at the time, everyone would have that skin. It would be like the ultimate collectible. So I'm not against that. Do all the capitalism shit you want. I just don't get why we have to wait 15 years and then do it through some like fake, like cool way, like pretend that we're doing what I want, like an actual Hall of Fame. Like, we're not really doing that, are we, guys? Come on.
Yeah, and also it's clearly part, and there's, again, I don't have an issue with this. It's just the cynical way it's rolled out, Thor. And this is clearly in conjunction with a deliverable for Mercedes-Benz, which is that they're giving Faker this Mercedes. Like, I think they're going to slap Mercedes logos all over the documentary. You know, this was clearly something that they sold to Mercedes as being part of
the hilarious thing about that, by the way. This is the one thing I've never brought it up because I'm not mean, but on this show, it's not like they're going to hear anyway, so don't worry. Right? I've always thought the car sponsorship part, even though cars, by the way, are a brilliant, obviously, thing. Everyone needs them in society. They're a luxury brand. Like, people want them, but you attach them with things cool. It's got all the reasons to put them in esports. But I'm just going to say this, guys. You know, like, they have Mercedes with Faker. They obviously had Kia famously with Damwon. I will just say, you have picked the only group of adult males in the world that don't drive cars, you idiots. Like, they're the only people that their whole life they've been on a shuttle back and forth from their thing. They don't even drive cars. Like, no one from that one drives a car.
Referring to.
You know, yeah, Faker. The joke is Faker's probably never driven a car, if I had to guess. Like, so yeah. Even though I agree, it's fine for the global audience. It's a great spot. It is. You have ironically picked the only people. Like, remember, every other sports star has a car.
That's actually
like,
so true.
You pick the only people in the world who don't drive cars. Like,
I would be shocked.
Remember, they're always just coming from the office.
Remember, Faker's from Seoul. I would be shocked if he had a driver's license.
Why would he? If people don't know, Seoul actually probably has the best transport system in the world. You really don't need a car to live there. And it's got mega taxis, everything. Yeah. So I doubt he not only had a car, but ever will drive a car, mate. Maybe he will in this documentary. That might be it, but I don't know about that bit.
I spent 5 years living in Korea, and I never drove a car. Right. I drive one now that I'm like in Incheon, not in Seoul, but and I need to use it to get around. But I spent years, living there without a car. So it's perfectly plausible not to do that. And as many people from major cities, if you're from London, from New York, you probably not driving.
Now it makes sense why even some of the best Korean players are shit at driving the Rift Herald. Even they sometimes fuck it up, mate, and go in the wrong lane. Even they crash into a wall. So there you go. That explains it. I've solved the whole thing there.
It explains.
By the way, low-key, even though it doesn't really affect the game, I actually do like that stupid addition to the game where you can just fuck up the Rift. I just think it's funny. It actually low-key is a good addition to the game. It doesn't really do anything.
That's why Faker was driving so badly on the Rift Herald to the LCK finals from spring. But
the other thing to say is this as well, Monty. The other reason it's so cynical is that story that we all heard last year, where like Faker already wanted the Ari skin for his world skin, and they were like,
"Yeah, exactly.
Psst, don't do that. Take Oriana because you get an Ari anyway." That's why we know it's a cash grab. Like, guys, wait a minute. If the winning prize for winning Worlds, Monty, is you get to choose your skin, then you get to choose your skin. You don't then go, I know you just won the World Championship. By the way, remember, for a normal player, even winning once ever is the greatest moment ever. I know that I said you win a skin, but I'm already going to make a skin next year as a single cash grab off you. So can you just do this other skin? Then what's my fucking prize? What do we do? Because that's why I also don't believe, Monty, that everyone else is getting in. Because I'll tell you an immediate problem. I'll tell you why my boy Mad Life's never getting in, Monty. What fucking skin would he have? He was relevant in like 2014 or something. Like, remember, dude, I think it was like 2016 or something. He was fucking in low-cost team in America trying to get in like LCS or some shit, was it? Like, he wouldn't have any modern skin. Think about all the modern support What champion does he play? But it's barely in the meta. Like, so you also, if you're going to make it, it's about making money. You're never going to put some of these people in. Where's House never getting in? No one's getting a vein skin, are they? Like, no one fucking plays that champion. It's not even ADC anymore. For fuck's sake. Like,
it would be Thresh.
You just never get in there.
I mean, the hilarious thing about this current point in time is that Blitz is more in the meta than Thresh is. But,
the joke is, yeah.
If Blitz was played in the LPL.
By the way, low key, I can't lie. That is actually one thing I do miss about Modern League is the fact that Thresh is barely ever played nowadays. I actually did think that was one of the best champions.
He's one of the best champions to watch for sure. He's really fun.
Yeah.
But I also think funny, the whole thing is just hilarious because even Faker seems surprised about the $500 price for this skin. And it's like, obviously Riot must be seething with the fact that Faker doesn't use skins because no joke, that has probably cost them
that is some
millions and millions
that is
of
some
dollars.
Sort of fucked up karmic justice, Monty. They wish they had some like Taric, XQC, whore sellout bitch who'd just do anything like even just like be permanently playing with skins. Like, hey guys, have you got the newest skin? Like, but the joke is Faker is on some like Bushido code samurai level shit where he's like, it's not the external that matters, but the internal of what the player brings to. I love it. Yeah, and the fact that he's only ever like once by accident and once on purpose, like he's only ever had skins like 2 times, I think, ever in like his whole career. Like that's the other thing that's perfect, isn't it? That your GOAT player not only just doesn't use them, he just like goes out of his way not to use them, and your whole game is a freemium game made around selling skins. I love it.
It is so very good. Funny.
Because the joke is, as you say, Monty, that's probably why they've done this cynical cash grab. Because it's actually the other way around. They've probably lost millions of dollars from Faker just not giving a fuck. Because think about it, every one of those clips, by the way, if you just take his same highlight clip but have like a baller skin, it would actually make people buy the skin. Like if everyone remembered that like Riven one was, you know what I mean? Like if every one of the famous clips was on a particular skin, it would just make you think differently. And actually, and it would have sold so many, of course. Yeah. I even wonder if it affected how many world skins he sold, because it might have, right? Maybe people don't buy him as much.
So he has. Right? He has used his World's Z skin when he was trolling with his team.
Yeah, All-Stars one.
Yeah. He
Which
famously
cool.
did. It was very
cool
funny when he did it too.
That was the ultimate era when it just showed that like Korea was so much better than the West, wasn't it? In a real tournament match, guys, when they were still in the tournament, they just picked all their world skins, which weren't even meta, and still won the game against the best team in Europe, probably the best Western team at the time. And that is actually ball as fuck. I can't.
Not only that, but they gave Xpeke Kassadin, which was mega broken at the time, simply so that they could play Zed, because Zed was ostensibly a good in lane versus Kassadin.
Yeah, no, that actually was G. Yeah.
He has used skins, and also famously Thorin. Sometimes he's accidentally used skins because when they're testing the accounts before they do the live games, somebody will select the skin, and then he'll be on that same account, and then so the skin is already pre-selected when he selects that champion. So that has happened before too. He has actually accidentally picked skins a couple of times.
Which, by the way, I'm sorry, even though, to be fair, this is just a random Korean person, so it is plausible. I'm just going to say this, Monty. I don't know if I believe that someone's accidentally activated this skin on Faker's account. That even sounds like a setup itself, really? Have they accidentally activated it, though? Have they, though? That sounds like someone said, like, look, he doesn't even use skins. He won't even notice. Just put it on the account and see if he does it. And then, oh, shit, what happened there?
All of a sudden that skin sales spike 500% over the next 24 hours. Well, anyway, further about this, Thorin, like they clearly didn't tell Faker the price point of these skins because he was surprised by it, which does seem like, to your point earlier about how he doesn't use skins, and he wanted the Ahri skin for his world skin, which would have been a more reasonably priced skin. He basically, I can imagine if I was Faker and I was told, no, you can't pick Ahri because we're making you a special Ahri skin. Pick something else. And he's like, okay, I pick Orianna. And then they come out and the skin that I wanted is $500. I would be pretty pissed, even if I was making 30% of these sales, right? And he's not making 30%, guys. Let's be very clear. Riot has intentionally obfuscated the amount of money that he is getting because 30% includes T1 And here's the other thing, guys. Remember
maybe even
that
an agent could have a million hidden costs, right?
could, and we don't know how it's
Might
allocated.
even get taxed on it. Who knows? Yeah, everything.
So here's the other thing. On World Skins, the region that wins Worlds also gets a cut. So, for example,
yeah, you all share it. Yes.
So
yes.
LCK, because when T1's new skins come out, all the teams in LCK get part of that 30%, right? And it's split amongst the region that wins, the franchise teams in the region that wins. So what percentage is T1 getting? What percentage is Faker getting? Is there a percentage like the World Skins that is going to other LCK teams? We don't know the answers to these questions. And Riot doesn't want to say, which I think is highly suspicious. But this is another example of like Riot is prioritizing all this other stuff, Thorin, but they're dropping the ball on actually monetizing for the teams. Remember, they promised the teams digital goods that would be sold through the streaming platform that they were developing. Then they killed the streaming platform and never said anything publicly about it. And by the way, I can tell you guys, also never said anything privately to the teams. They never even addressed it with the teams that are their franchise partners. They never said, hey guys, you know that streaming platform I promised you? Well, that's not happening anymore. Instead, we get more vague promises about digital goods at some point in the future that have never, ever, ever, ever fucking manifested. And instead, what we get is a Faker skin where we don't even know if that is going to other LCK teams. And also, let's be clear, T1's going to get a ton of money from the World Skins anyway. Why are we making T1 so rich? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to win Worlds to get digital goods in game?
By the way, I definitely agree that if this is literally to celebrate Faker, 100% of his cut should only be his cut, Monty. That's just obvious. Like, I'm being serious. Why should T1 get a cut of Faker's legendary skin? They already earned whatever spot. Look, they didn't, because obviously we lose money. But in theory, they already made all that revenue off Faker. They won all the championships with Faker. As you said, they're already getting a cut of the world skins. Like, why would they get a cut of his personal skin as well? Like, because I'm with you. The actual best way, if this was really about like celebrating Faker, would be if in the article you could explain that he is going to make millions of dollars. By the way, that would also even be cool. Imagine if like you did this for real and there actually was a way. Like, again, I don't know how you could get the old legends, but that would actually be a cool. You know, I've always thought that is a real thing I do want in esports. I don't know if you know this, but there's one sport, I forget if it's the NFL, there's one of the American sports I know where they do have like a little fund for the like legendary players that comes out of like, I think it's like a tiny percent of like the current player's salary, or like maybe
I think
like
it's the NFL.
Yeah, there's one of them where they do it as like, I can't remember if it's to cover like, you know, like health costs or something like that, or if it's actually just like a little like, it's something like that, isn't it? Because I've always thought in esports, the reason why it would be even cooler in esports if we had that is because one, an esports career is so short, and two, we've scaled up so much. Like I was thinking about this the other day. So in CSGO, right, and CS2 rather, like G2 just won this IEM Dallas tournament, right? And their coach is Taz, that legendary Virtus Pro player, right? But what people don't realize is, so ESL flexed that because this is the 100th IEM tournament. Well, he actually is a player, Monty. He won the first IEM. He won the first IEM that was in 2007, right? That was in like Hanover or some shit, right? Well, here's the part that people don't realize about that. Even though when he won that first tournament, he was in like arguably the best team in the world, he will have been making like $500 a month salary. Like the joke is now as a coach of a team winning in the 100th one, he probably makes, no joke, 40 times that salary. Like he's on insanely. So what I want is I actually would like things that were sort of like pay the old legends. Like imagine if, like I said, you could have a Blitzcrank skin, but you knew that Mad Life got all the money. Dude, that would be sick. If Mad Life, like all these years after his career, got like fucking 400k or something, like a little, almost like a fucking retirement gift. That would be baller. I think that would actually be really cool for the sport.
Yeah.
I want all the old legends to get their sort of pay in the end, you know, because they built what we got now. They deserve a little cut. They deserve a kickback, you know.
I want the teams to have digital goods. Like,
sure.
I want the teams to be solvent. Like the teams continue just to get absolutely shit on in this ecosystem because there are no media rights deals, which they were promised. There are no digital goods in League of Legends, which they were promised and then which got revoked. They're constantly told, oh, we're making this streaming platform and that's going to help us sell these digital goods. No, canceled. Don't even say anything to the teams. Like, you know, Riot is very like one-sided and abusive towards these teams because they got them on the hook. And the thing is, nobody is going to bail on this ecosystem. And so they just know they can just perpetuate this until the end of time.
You know, one thing I want to know, I really don't get it. Even though it wouldn't look that great in game, the obvious thing to me for real, I mean, look, it works better in Counter-Strike, but you could still do it in League, is why are there not skins that actually incorporate the logos of the teams in the skin? Like, why can't I not buy like a skin that's like T1 Oriana? You know what I mean? Like, why can't I not buy that? Like, it's got like some cool design, or it's like a trainer up the side, it says the T1 logo. That would be baller. You know, someone made a point, by the way, in the chat that I actually think is relevant. It's one of the rare times ever the chat will get to contribute, Monty, which is, you know, the other reason why the team are getting the money doesn't make any sense. Because that's easy with T1, because he was there the whole time. What do you do for Uzi, for example? Which org gets the money?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
It'll just be the current org, won't it? So if he signs with like fucking EDG again, they get all the money, even though he was on RNG the whole. You know what I mean? Like,
they said very vaguely. They said very vaguely, I believe, that it would be split between all of the teams. But like, so it's like RNG would probably, maybe it's like how many years that player spent with the team that it gets cut. You know, the cuts get. But I mean, obviously, it gets really messy. It's easy for Faker because he was just on T1 his whole fucking career.
Exactly.
But it's really hard. Like, what happens if Deft gets in? Deft's been on every fucking team. Right? You know, if the region is getting cuts, then you get the problem of how much does the LPL get versus the LCK, right? It's obviously a really messy problem. But, you know, look, the other thing that makes me sad about this whole thing is like part of the $500 cost is clearly, and the, you know, even the baseline Ari skin, which is like $50, is clearly because the thing that Riot and the math that they're doing, by the way, guys, the reason why they don't make these digital goods is because in Riot's mind, and I'm not saying this is a bad decision, this is a good business decision from Riot, it's just shitty for the teams, is that they could either make 100% of a skin money, or they could make 70%. And the thing is, with these skins, it's not just the 100%, you know, versus 70%, because they're paying for this really shiny documentary. That documentary probably cost $1 million or more to make, guys. Flying all those people around, doing all those interviews, editing it, all of the production value, lighting, everything that went into it. The narrative design, you know, making the battle pass, paying Fionn to like watch all the Fakers games and then set up the narrative. So basically it's not only that they're only getting 70%, it's that they have huge costs associated with this. Now, part of that was probably defrayed by Mercedes-Benz or whatever partnership. But remember, at any point in time, Riot can release Pool Party Ari in a bikini and make 100% of that money. So they are making decisions about pricing of these skins that has to incorporate the costs that they are incurring as a result of this. And I think that's another reason why this stuff is so expensive. I think that's another reason.
Also, when does the Frog and Anivia skin come out? I just want to know that. It's the way I would actually complain, but then I'd just be like a total hypocrite. What the hell? I love skins now. I would buy it. No joke.
Yeah, I mean, look. So I think there are a lot of issues with this, but I think the main one is just the point you reached earlier, Thorin, which is it just feels bad. Like, it just feels cynical. And like, this isn't how.
Why is that like the nuclear option? Like, if they ever like are about to go out of business, like raise the pool party skins. Like,
I know, it's so funny.
What is this at all? That's like a comedy. That's like actually Austin Powers, like release the nukes or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous, mate. Ridiculous. I love it. I
mean, you guys are to blame, fans, because you want Bikini Fox Girl for whatever reason. Like, come on, dude. You
know what? Oh, dude, you know what I've just realized now? Oh, my God. This is where I'm at. You know, the one thing, Monty, this might sound weird, but this is a philosophical point. I actually do believe, in general, one of the good things is that, I know this will sound weird, but I think actually a lot of people who are evil or, like, twisted, they don't tend to be, I know this will sound weird, but they don't tend to actually be that intelligent and creative about how they're evil. They tend to be kind of a bit blunt and a bit brute force about how they're evil. I don't know if it's like that sort of fucking Tolkien angle of, you know, like only good can create and then evil just has to like warp that into whatever it does. But I will say this, you know what I've realized would have actually been, and they're going to hear this now and be so mad they didn't think of this idea. Do you know what would have been the most cynical but genius idea Riot could have done? When they got that announcement that they were getting the $100 million fine, you just release literally a super sexy, like fucking pool party line, but you say it's to support women, and that 10% of it, you make it some shitter amount, like only 10%. So what you do is you take 90% and just pay off all your fine with it, and then you make money off the women. You just say it's to support women and goes to like women's charities or something. That would, because what's genius is that would work. The sad thing is it would work, Monty. I'm actually so glad they never thought of that, because that would have been like the ultimate way to not even have the fine, isn't it? Like that, they wish they thought of that idea. idea, mate. They wish they thought that idea. By the way, I'll just give you a free one right now, right? There's an obvious one you can do right now. You can do a super gay skin for this month and then give all the money to like LGBTQ charities. And then the joke is we'll all pretend you're partner with the Saudis, even though you've just obviously fucking gone all deep on that, haven't you? We'll just get to that later. It's all good.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, we can get to that right now because we're back, guys. It's
you can
June.
You could have like a fucking vein skin. Oh, that Vane's a woman, actually. It needs to be like fucking Draven and assless chaps or something like that, you know. Yeah, there you go. Go for it. Let's fucking go for it, I guess, right?
I mean, look, they already made their announcement about Pride for Riot. Well, by the way, guys, literally the first week of July, the first week after Pride Month, their League of Legends is in Saudi Arabia.
That's the thing I can't handle, is that it actually does literally like a meme. The pride comes before the fall. I can't handle, I actually can't. And by the way, shout out Richard Lewis, if you know what he's doing, that's also hilarious, that scheme. But it also does, it's like they've actually set it up like that, isn't it? It's so ridiculous.
I think we'll probably, by the way, guys, we'll probably have a Four Horsemen on this topic soon, just because like it's so terrible. And we need to prime you guys for the mass hypocrisy.
By the way, let's just address this now for the hilarity of it. Because, mate, I actually think that tweet the other day, even though, by the way, the way it was phrased wasn't like super inflammatory, it might be the most entitled tweet in the history of the esports industry. Because a woman who works for Team Liquid, right, it has layers to it, so I'll set it up. She did a tweet where it was the Pride Month tweet from Team Liquid, and she quote tweeted it. And cause obviously, like every year, and by the way, it's having an effect, by the way, Monty. You notice a lot of the orgs aren't doing it, or some of them are doing it for one day and then kicking it off because they don't want this they don't want this splashback. They don't want like to get hated on for doing like, you know, a positive cause, or to everyone to point out you're a hypocrite, or even worse, everyone to point out the Saudi thing 24/7. So I get why some of the orgs are being a lot more kid gloves with this, right? Because Team Liquid did it. Well, obviously everyone went in on them, like, especially because Team Liquid had done that famous like tweet where they did the cynical like hashtag to get more money from the Saudis. So because everyone was obviously banging on them, right? Instead of just thinking, well, in a way, I'm already having a cake and eating the cake by saying I support gays, but then working with people who hate gays. I won't just go, well, I'm already basically winning. So let me use, by the way, the most successful PR strategy in the history of corporate culture, which is kill it with silence. Which, by the way, it works every time, because at the end of the day, me and Monty, the second we stop saying it, no one else says it, so you've already won. Instead of that, she decided to triple down in a way that is genius. She didn't get mad at herself and Team Liquid for working with the Saudis. She didn't get mad at the idea people might not want gay stuff. She got mad at all of it, tried to imply, this is mental, that the same people who wouldn't want them to do Pride also don't want them to work with the Saudis. It's like, that's insane gaslighting, because it's obviously a dichotomy, you idiot. It's not like the same group. Nobody in the world is going, don't do Pride and also don't work with the Saudis. And then lastly, this is the maddest one. She chose that the actual group of people we need to get mad at, are you ready, is people getting mad at Liquid for being hypocrites. Holy fuck. Like, basically, this woman just decided she's never wrong, as far as like the baseline presumption. Like, that one is mad, mate. The idea, the people you get mad at is us getting mad at you. Like, holy fuck, this gaslighting is crazy.
Well, it's also, I mean, her job is the vice president of brand for Team Liquid.
That's wild too, isn't it? I know. That's wild too. It's not even an intern or something. Like, that's your whole shit is the brand.
I don't, you know, here's my experience with esports fans, guys. Usually pretty keyed in on these issues. Usually pretty pissed off about hypocrisy. As a group, you guys aren't stupid. And so you see these things and you don't like them most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how she could have a grasp on the Team Liquid brand or esports and make that tweet.
Shout out to the random comment in the chat. I will just say this, even though it was phrased in a not a very tactful way, this was actually a bagger, where the guy said they are supporting LGBTQ causes by sucking Saudi dick. Like, you know what? Fair play. Every now and then, you've got to give the little people a bit of shine. That's pretty good. By the way, Richard would appreciate that. That's pretty good. That's well crafted. Okay, fair play. I'll give you that one. I see you. That's good. That's a good one. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just outrageous. And I think you're right, Thorin. Like, like, it is just better to be silent, because here's the thing. If you guys don't know, you can look at Richard's Substack that he's been writing.
Yes.
But he actually went out and he contacted every sponsor of every team, like 30 teams.
Oh, it's mad obnoxious. Yeah, it is.
So he like emailed every sponsor of every team that is a partner of the Esports World Cup, just to try and get comments from them or see if they would do anything. So Thorin, I actually think he scared the rest of the teams to just not saying anything, because he didn't want, they didn't want to get into a social media firestorm where everybody tagged their sponsors.
You know, the thing that cracked me up though, Monty, there's like a second layer that people are going to miss, which is that Richard has, like me, tried to like change his relationship with social media, and what battles does he get into, and do you, like, for example, if some little shitter that's nobody snipes at you, do you fire back? Do you say nothing? Do you try and be the bigger man? He's been struggling with that like I have. But you notice it was only a few months ago, Monty, when he did the CS2 major, that he sort of made it like he'd had this epiphany, and he had like a born again moment, and he wasn't going to be toxic anymore, and now he was not going to be about but then the joke is it's like it's just in us. You have to understand, it's in our DNA at this point in time. And so then he sat there for a while like, oh, it's all sort of quiet on the Western Front, isn't it? And then out of nowhere he just came out like, in June I will be getting every tweet about there's just something in me and Richard Monty at this point that just like, we're like those people who like, the people who come home from war and they're traumatized because we're the guys who come home and we're traumatized because we can never get that feeling again. You know what I mean? Like, we need like to be in a war. We need to just be in a battle, because in that scenario, he is that like meme of like, I want problems. Oh, where's like, he just found a war to have. Like, there wasn't any left and he just found a new warfare play. Like, I'm the same, Monty. Like, I know that like, even if I say like, oh, I'm just going to ignore that shit, then I'm just like, then in my brain, you have the idle thoughts, just starts thinking, I should really make that video Wreck Slasher. I never did. So yeah, somehow we're always going to have this venting approach, I think, where it's just always going to be who we are. I've just accepted it now. I've accepted it.
I think it's very entertaining. But
at least we're good at it. At least we've sort of mastered our craft, haven't we?
So I think guys, we probably will be heading towards a Four Horsemen to discuss this, because I know some of you are probably very sick of it, but I think it's important that we continue to talk about the Saudi stuff. And at least for me,
I'll tell you an angle, Monty. I've got a suggestion for you, a real one. I actually would, for real, even though I might not agree with them on certain things, I actually think an episode that could be good is get an outside person who literally works for some sort of LGBTQ cause, who doesn't give a fuck about esports, so they're not compromised, and just ask them like what Saudis do to people like that. I think that would actually, for real, be like an interesting guest to have, right? Because that's one thing I made this point. I saw you mirrored the point on Twitter. That's the most whack thing about this, mate. Is it's not that I actually expect people to be able to stop Riot and ESL and the South. No. But where is the resistance? Think about that, like hashtag Donald Trump resistor. Where are even the people speaking out? Like, where is the charity whose whole thing is just visibility for LGBT? So saying like, hey guys, we shouldn't work with the Saudi. There isn't anyone. It's actually like almost like blowing my mind. There's not anyone. There's not a single group. There's not even a group, remember, that doesn't like takes outside or crowdfunding or something. There's nobody that represents that. Like, the joke is, unironically, me, someone who quite famously isn't even in that group. At least Richard is in the LGBTQ fucking community, guys. Like, I have nothing to do with it, and I've in no way ever attacked. Why am I one of the leading voices for this topic? It's because there's no one else. I had to just fill the vacuum. So, like, I actually think, for real, I would like someone who cares about this topic to speak about it. I would like it.
Well, that's because, the genius of what the tragic genius of what Riot and the Saudi government has done is that they've basically been able to gag everybody. That's what sports washing is, guys, is that by creating this partnership, by paying the teams, they have gagged all of the teams. And Riot itself, if you have a co-streaming deal with them, you can't say anything bad about Riot. And so if you start criticizing Riot, because guess what, guys? Riot is also taking money from the Saudi Arabian government, because how do you think they got a license to run this tournament? And the fact that Riot specifically did not say that they didn't take money. Because remember, they said, we're doing it during our break week, guys. We have nothing to do with this event. But they did not say that they did not take money. They did take money, guys. And here's another little spoiler for you that'll probably come out in the future. There have been a lot of Riot senior executives in Saudi Arabia over the last year.
Right.
A lot of them. Multiple times. So I don't know what the fuck they're cooking up over there, but it's probably going to go beyond Esports World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised, Thorin, if the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund bought part of Riot from Tencent.
By the way, it would be a smart move. I know. And by the way, spoiler: Tencent wouldn't give a fuck about selling that. Like, they're not going to go, well, I don't know if I want to work with the Saudis. Like, they don't give a fuck, guys.
And as I've said, this is just the test. This is the little probe that they're shooting off.
Monty, no joke, in a way, even though I don't want it to happen, I'm not an accelerationist. I actually want things to go well and for us to reverse the course. But in a way, that would be the ultimate one, Monty, if you want to wreck everyone in esports. Because what the fuck do those anti-Neon people in the talent do if literally the same people who were Neon buy the company they work for? What would they even do, bro? That would actually be glorious in a way, wouldn't it?
It's going to be worse because I think that they're just going to directly take over LCS and LEC eventually.
It makes sense. If you look at what they've done with like the daughter circuit and what they've done with like StarCraft, all that shit makes sense.
Riddle me this. So one thing, right?
Here's my suggestion, Monty. I actually think for real, this might be the logical thing. I keep hearing all the time, Monty, behind the scenes about like that EFG, the ESL Faceit group, doing deals with people or getting into part. Here's the obvious thing. Maybe we just come full circle, and at the end, ESL just runs the LCS and the LEC. Maybe you just white label it, and the joke is they already own that shit. Yeah.
I will say this, even if it doesn't happen. So I think, and I've said this before, in a year or two, I would be shocked if MSI was not in Riyadh because it was already in Brazil. They've already set a precedent. It doesn't have to be in a major region. Esports World Cup is the test probe to see if this works, guys, to see how mad you get.
MSI,
yeah, to see how mad you get. To see how well ESL does at producing the event. Like, this is a trial. This is a trial. And the end result of this is likely that they are going to start taking over the League of Legends circuit. Maybe they start by taking over MSI, then they take over LEC and LCS. And here's the thing, Thorin. Now, they've been doing a lot of really suspicious things recently. Remember when they laid off all those people?
Technically, Monty, the worst thing I've realized as well is that thing that you pointed out a while ago, that because they changed it to EMEA, you could even have the LEC finals in Riyadh, mate.
Yep. So
you actually could.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Part of all of those LCS and LEC layoffs was because they have been changing the locations of the people who have been running LCS and LEC. And by that, I mean, they have been hiring an outside production company to then hire people to run it out of Seattle and out of Dublin. Okay. So now the LEC control room is mostly in Dublin at Riot Striker facility, and that is crewed very crucially no longer by Riot employees, but by a third-party production company that hires those employees. Right. So what this means, guys, is that at any point in time, they could yoink that contract, and guess who gets it? ESL. ESL gets it. ESL employees go to Dublin, or they run it out of Cologne. Right? They run it out of their facilities, or they run it out of Katowice. They've got stuff there too. And they run a remote control room themselves. But what they are setting up, what Riot is very deliberately setting up, is offloading their full-time employees to another company, and then you wonder what happens in the future if they decide to start bidding for that. I think
also the most Riot way to do it, because I wanted them to use a third party the whole time, so they just did it in the worst possible way. So brilliant, and way later than I wanted them to. So as usual, it's like this thing we're going to talk about in a minute with best of threes, Monty. Right? This is why I'm so bored of esports, because I want best of threes. So in theory, when you announce best of threes, I should celebrate, right? But all I can think of is the gaslighting I've had from everyone else in the LCS fucking environment about they hate best of threes, and then them doing that thing again. Like, what the hell? Now I think they are great. Oh, why are you all like this? Can't we just fucking do it right the first time? Why do I have to be proven right but 10 years too late? Why?
Yeah. All right. Well, Thorin, before we get to LCS, which will be our next topic of conversation, we do have a new sponsor this week. This episode of Summoning Insight is brought to you by BetterHelp. As you guys may have heard previously, BetterHelp is a company that offers therapy. So basically, guys, if you sign up with them, give them a call, you can talk to therapists. It can be helpful for you, potentially, kind of anything in your life that you're working to kind of make better. Sometimes it can help to talk it out with a trained therapist. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills, setting boundaries, empowering you to be the best version of yourself. So it's not just for people who have experienced major trauma. So if you guys want, you can visit betterhelp.com/summoning today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/summoning. Thank you very much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of Summoning Insight. We appreciate it. And again, betterhelp.com/summoning on your screen right now. All right. So let us talk about LCS and the changes that are coming in, because there were a lot of them in an announcement. And by the way, I do want to credit Mark Z. It is a million times better to have this guy in front of a camera properly messaging this stuff. Even if I have criticized him in the past, even if I don't agree with him, this is way better than it was previously. So there you go. We have a best of 3 announcement, which of course he was very careful to say, like, you know, we may not have best of 3s in the future, guys. This is, who knows what's going to happen. We're testing it to get data right now. And also I'll notice he got in front of things already and said, like, we're going to be comparing this to, you know, a year ago previous summer splits, because obviously we know typically for League of Legends, viewership is lower in the summer. So he's basically just preempting the fact that there is going to be, obviously, as there always has been, less viewership for the summer season than the spring season.
If they don't like it, they just go, oh, it was bloody best of 3s that attacked the viewership. Well, we won't do that again. Meanwhile, it just went down anyway, like you say. Yeah.
Well, they did say they'd be, you know, they'll be kind of like trying to one-to-one compare it to other summer splits, right? Even though it is obvious to, and I do have to go on a rant about this real quick, because, by the way, when I started asking at the end, I know people are loving, definitely not sick of hearing my LCS viewership rants, but basically Mark Z decided to just, when I started asking questions about, did North American fan viewership go up or down, when they were trumpeting the fact that, oh, we got like 5% more viewership. I said, did North America, because obviously the answer, guys, is with the co-streams, everything like that, with the other language co-streams, with everything, it was clearly the answer was North American viewership went down, because when you have a bunch of Brazilian fans, and they were saying, well, there always were a bunch of Brazilian fans, they just moved over to Baiano's stream. There were more, obviously. Cadril is more than 50% EU viewers, guys. Probably like 2/3 EU viewers, if we're being honest. Simply because there are just more EU viewers these days, because shit is dead in North America and there are no new players of League of Legends, and ergo there are no new viewers, because you are never going to watch this game with 170 champions and bother to learn it if you're not playing it. So no new players, no new viewers. Anyway, you know, basically one of the really disingenuous things he said was this. Well, it's always like they're trying to move the goalposts about viewership. Well, first off, it was that it was going down, and then now it's that, oh, it's not North America. No, Mark Z, let me explain this to you. You are the commissioner of a league. The questions are about the health of your league. It's not moving the goalpost. The goalpost is LCS healthy? And we didn't have data before on potential geographies of viewership to ask questions about, because you just opened up the co-streaming to these other people.
The point you always
I couldn't ask that question previously.
In your famous rant about viewership, the point he's missing, but he isn't, he's intentionally ignoring it, is the reason why just raw viewership doesn't matter is because if I'm a North American brand who sponsors the LCS, I gain nothing from a Chinese viewer. He might not even, if he's in China, be able to pay for my product. It might even be possible. So you are right, Monty. If the viewership goes up, but essentially it's people from South America or China, and I'm literally like, I'll pick a random one, like Popeye's Chicken in fucking Louisiana, that ain't helping me. In fact, actually, you could even argue you're almost selling me a false bill of goods that you're telling me you've got all this viewership. It's not going to buy my product, you know?
Well, even if, let's just say, so the LCS has Kia now. Even if, you know, there is value to these other sponsors, you'd have to say, what is the odds that somebody in Brazil buys a Kia? Or let's say there's an international brand that comes in. So not Popeyes, but like KFC, okay?
Yeah, sure.
But the thing is, KFC is sold for significantly less money in Brazil, and certainly there are lesser costs associated with that, but the profit per person per KFC order is probably significantly less in Brazil than it is in the United States of America or Canada, where LCS is based. And also, all of these are regionalized marketing costs, where that money is frequently coming out of the U.S. budget for that company, and these people do not give a shit how much of that product is sent in Brazil, because that's not their job. It's not their job to give a shit about that. And by the way, what I care about is not only the health of the LCS, but I care about the health of the LCS teams because, again, the teams have been the biggest losers. The players won because they got a bunch of venture capital. Riot won because they sold a bunch of skins and never told anybody how much money they made or shared any of that money. And if the marketing exercise was not effective, guys, riddle me this. Why did they do it in Valorant? Why did they do it in Valorant? They never had to do it in Valorant. Clearly, they think that the ROI, the return on investment of esports is very worth it, or they never would have created a Valorant circuit. So they have the data that says this worked very well in League of Legends. This made us a bunch of money via the marketing efforts. And so we are going to do it again in-house. Now, you might ask yourself, well, Monty, why did you say they wanted to outsource it to ESL? Because what if they could just control the marketing effort 100%? And basically just get the Saudis to pay for it because then they make even more money. So it's a good idea, right? ESL, the Saudi government does not care about making money right now on this stuff. They care about PR and they care about making money eventually because they're playing a very long game. So there are lots of reasons why this could be the case and why it could eventually happen. It consolidates a lot of control over the esports. I mean, they already own Counter-Strike, basically. Like, Blast is, like, sitting there, and I guess, like, PGL is kind of there doing some majors, but for the most part, they already control the entire Counter-Strike circuit. They've been sinking their claws into the Dota circuit. They own Overwatch now that Overwatch League is dead. There's a lot of things and it's clear that dominance is the goal. And so, wouldn't surprise me if they took on League of Legends simply to get that audience and that market share as part of a long-term play. But when we talk about LCS, like, I care about how the teams do, and the teams, and you'll notice they signed a new team agreement that includes a flat stipend instead of a revenue share stipend. I wonder why they could do that. It's almost like revenue might be going down because viewership is going down and because maybe sponsors aren't interested in an audience that, and I'm not shitting you, might be more than 50% not North American at this point in time. There's a real possibility that it is over 50% not North American now, based on the numbers that have been coming in. And of course they just accuse people of moving the goalposts. And it's like, you are clueless. Like, first off, this is just a stupid argument that you're making. And second off, it's not moving the goalposts. The question is, you guys don't give data. So we're asking questions based on available data. And the goalpost is, are the teams and is the league more healthy than it was previously? The answer is clearly no. And so here's what's going to happen, guys. They're going to make it America's. I keep saying this. They're going to merge it with Brazil and they're going to merge it with LA. They will do this. They will do this. The guy who runs League for Americas is Brazilian and comes from CBLOL. He will do this. He will do it. Maybe they'll do it next year. It might be next year, guys. I don't know. Probably it's going to be next year. It'll be the year after, if not that, because it's the only way to save the LCS viewership, because it is in a death spiral right now. And because there are no people in North America that are playing it. And the only way to generate some sort of hype is to have that interregional competition. And you know what, Thorin? I welcome this. I think it'll make the Brazilian teams maybe more competitive. I think it will be fun to have North American rosters versus Brazilian rosters. I think it's good. Now, the Brazilian fans probably don't like this, but I think it's the way.
They don't like anything, mate. So
that's true.
They don't like anything. I've learned that all through hard-fought experience. By the way, I also just think the problem I have with Marksy's statement, and by the way, miss me with this angle, Monty, that people are going to take of like, well, Marksy didn't say that. He didn't work for Riot at the time. His job is to represent Riot, and he is speaking with like a collective we about Riot and its history in the LCS. So he is absolutely embodying. He essentially is the physical avatar of the LCS, which isn't some sort of cynical fucking like way of saying it, whatever. Like, he isn't literally like in that sense. I mean, a metaphorical, obviously, right? Here's my problem. When he presented BO3 as the solution, Monty, he did exactly what I hate to my fucking core about Riot Games employees. He gaslit you by telling you every argument you've made for best of threes as if they were like new arguments that they've just realized now, as opposed to things they denied or outright refused to listen to for years. So here are some things he said. He said, first of all, that by changing to best of threes, this was part of a fan-first approach that Riot's now taking in 2024. Right? I'm so bored of Riot just deciding what they want and then reverse engineering whether they need to say it's a player-focused approach or a fan-focused approach to do whatever they wanted anyway. So Monty, you know all those like 10 plus years where Riot was a player-first company? It's now a fan-first company. What does that even mean? It means nothing. Like, you're not doing anything fans or players ask for. You're just doing it and then deciding in this, because in this scenario, Monty, I'll tell you the reason they've said fan-first. Are you ready for me to translate that immediately? They know that a pro player, remember guys, in 2020, the motherfuckers that play in the LCS were like, oh, COVID, can we just cancel the split? We'll get paid still. These motherfuckers don't even want to play their professional game. So the reason I think he said fan first, Monty, is because players probably don't want best of threes. Players are probably dumb enough in America to be like, so I get paid the same money for playing more games. Like, so I actually think he's, believe it or not, being cynical, but slightly smart by saying fan first on that. Then he has the goal to give all the fucking reasons that always made sense for this. Like, you can focus on a single opponent instead of like 2 or 3, which obviously waters down your preparation efforts. You can make mid-series adaptations. I like the way he's saying this in 2024. Like in 2024, we've just discovered you can have mid-series adaptations. Like, I've been watching Dota for fucking like 13 years or something when they'd be doing that. Then how about this one? He even has the goal, Monty, to point out, one, viewership might go down initially when you do that. Last time you did it, that justified taking it away. Why does that suddenly not work? And then secondly, this one almost made me throw up. He had the goal to point out that they did this before. Are you ready, Monty? And it failed. But instead of taking the conclusion we've been told for years by freaking all them fucks that it failed because of best of 3, he points out that dual streams might have had something to do with it. I can't fucking handle this announcement because it's like I'm actually being gaslit about what happened for the last... You'd think from this that I was the one saying keep best of ones and then they're like finally winning me over. Like, we've been saying all these arguments for fucking years, bro. And he even at the end put in some absolute bullshit, which is he said that it makes the perfect... He said the reason this, are you ready, Monty, isn't just a good time, it's the ideal time. Season 14 is the ideal time to bring best of these. Are you ready? Because, are you ready to again spin an obvious negative into a positive? Because 2 teams just left the fucking league, it's better now because there's less matches, right? 1, that makes no sense. If it's brilliant to have best of 3s because you get more of the good matches, it's better with more teams. And are you ready for the ultimate reason why? Because the LPL has 17 teams. So how does the LPL do it with 17? Now, admittedly, they've just done a group system where they actually are switching their format up. But how did the LPL for years have the best league with 17 teams in a same format, single round robin of best of 3? So as usual, it's the usual Riot fucking bullshit where even though that was like 2 minutes I just broke down there, the amount of shit stacked behind and between the sentences there was bonkers, mate. It's bonkers. What do you think?
No, I look, I'm glad it's happening. But it is
of course, it's going to be way better. It's going to be way better,
well,
yeah.
I mean, my reaction to the thing where it's like, we decided that 2024 was focused on the fans. You are an entertainment sports product. What were you focused on earlier?
I've always been, surely, yeah, exactly.
So it's a tacit admission that literally all other seasons of the LCS were never about the fans. Like, by the way, if that's true, fire everyone that was ever associated with leadership of the LCS. Oh, wait, you promoted all those people? Weird. It's almost like they were...
We've heard your concerns, and in our 14th year doing this, now that none of you watch anymore, we've decided to make it all about you watching. It's talking about... I love it.
I mean,
By the way, here's where they could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hire that woman from Team Liquid to now get mad at us for getting mad at you. Have her actual job be literal Riot Karen. That should be her tagline, Riot Karen, and she just walk scolds us for everything we say that we're wrong. By the way, here's the genius. She could actually, here's the thing, I actually want her to not even be in good faith, Monty. Just be like super single. Just say some shit like that. We're like mansplaining formats or something to Riot. Like, just pull some fucked up angle to silence us already. Just do it already, motherfucker. Do it, motherfucker.
Well, it's also like, you know, usually Riot will pretend that they invented something that was invented previously in esports, but now they're pretending they invented it in there when all the other regions have been running best of 3s, some of them for many years now. And so now we just have this, and it was always the answer, guys. It was always the answer. And they're starting to do fearless draft, even in best of 5 in what, the Challenger League, and what is it? I forget what it's called.
NACL.
NACL. And like,
speaking of which, by the way, he also says at the beginning of the video, and I've got some really hype news for it. There's no, like, by definition, there's no such thing as hype news for the NACL. Nobody watches the NACL. By the way, get a million shitter fucking like. Are you ready to really get upset people? Get a million shitter fucking teenage adult pulp fiction writers that Travis likes to invest as much as you want. Get as many shitter dickhead fucking influencers like Disguised Toast. Get them all in that league. Nobody watches your main league, dickhead. Nobody is watching NACL. Well, we now also established you don't make any fucking money. Like, nobody's watching it, bro. Nobody's watching. There's no such thing as hype news around that. The hype news would be we've closed it down and we're doing something better. There's the hype news.
I mean, it's also that, like, you know, Brandon Sanderson or whatever his name is partnering with Maryville University, which is great for Maryville, but it's basically like the way they're like, oh yeah, now we're going to call, now it's like the celebrity league where we're going to get celebrities who, you know, maybe they're going to attach their name to this, but they don't know how to operate an esports team. So they're just going to pay the other team. And like, good for Maryville. Like, honestly, they're giving kids full ride scholarships. Like, sure, slap a fantasy author's name on there. I don't care. That's great. Shout out to Maryville. Great job. You know, take
just
the money,
take the
bag.
Basically,
why not?
make the whole league a celebrity. Make it like the GGL Hip Hop Gaming League. So I want it to be like iShowSpeed has the Ronaldos. We've got fucking XQC. Don't even know what he'd have in fucking room temperatures or some IQs. I don't know.
But again, Thorin, here's the thing. Remember when Mr. Beast, literally the biggest YouTuber in the entire world, wanted to run a tournament in the off season?
Oh, true. Yep.
And they wouldn't let Bjergsen and Double Lift go. So the same company that made that decision is now like, we love celebrities. It's like, so why didn't you do that? Why didn't you fire the person who made that decision?
Yes.
Like, because clearly all they do is 180 all the time. Why are we in best of threes now? If best of threes are successful, why are you not getting rid of the dumbasses?
In the comments of this video, post your best fake celebrity team name. So it could be like the Snoop Dogg for Shizzles, you know. I didn't say the rest of that. You cancelled it, but you get the premise. Just come up with your own. The fucking, I guess you could have the Diddy's Lost Boys.
Jesus.
The Drake never beating the allegations. Not bad. Got some pretty good ones there. You put your own. You come up with your own and put it in the comments below.
But I just wonder, Thorin, because again, remember the kids don't play this game. There was never going to be a better chance than Mr. Beast, and they fucking fumbled it. And so I just don't understand who they think they're going to get.
The idea. I agree. What's the target demographic? So people who read Brandon Sanderson or whatever his fucking name's books, they're going to go, I better get watching, not even, by the way, not even Good League or LCK, not even the LCS. I'm going to start watching NACL. It's so implausible a premise. It's insane. I know. It's actually mental. There's no way. There's no overlap at all there. The joke is, the only person who reads those books and cares about League is Travis, and he already watched, well, the joke is even he doesn't watch NACL. So there you go. Case closed. That was your perfect demographic. That was the only Venn diagram overlap. The center of the Venn diagram is just Travis, and even he doesn't watch NACL. Enough said.
So I just don't understand what the purpose of this is. And like, if you're gonna do the celebrity thing, you already missed the boat on that one. You missed it. That was years ago. That was pre like Drake and Ninja playing Fortnite together. Like, what year do you think this is? This isn't 2015 anymore. It's 2024. Nobody watches LCS. You are in a fucking death spiral. This doesn't save anything.
Oh, bro, I've just thought up the great idea. Here's what you actually should have done for real. Like you say, about 6-7 years ago, this is what you should have done with Academy. You should have actually offered Academy. No, fuck buying it. You should have offered Academy slots to famous streamers. By the way, even people like Dom, have them have their team, and then they co-stream the fucking NACL. That's a fucking bagger idea right there, man.
It would be great.
It's too late now, though. But yeah.
I mean, think about like the wars that big streamers could have if you actually injected their personality.
It would basically be like the ultimate version of the like sub wars, wouldn't it?
We already saw that with like Cadril versus Dom on the Shy thing. It was fun.
Yeah,
people
true.
like enjoy. I enjoyed that. You could do that with actual, up and coming teams. Plus, you've got like Ibai and Kometo and people to throw in there. Like, it'd be way more entertaining. Plus, Thorin, amazingly, that actually caters to your core audience. Weird. Instead of just trying to get some random people from the outside to, by the way, eventually these people are going to be tired of wasting their money in your ecosystem because you don't offer any path to sustainability. And Disguised Toast has been out there saying that he loses money on this shit. Like, why is he just going to bleed money till the end of time? You know who might have done that actually is Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast actually does love League of Legends, guys.
By the way, that's what I actually love, though, because the funniest thing, if you remember, was first of all, the Disguised Toast guy came in, Monty, and flexed about how he was doing all these things for his team and his players that like other orgs don't, and then turned around and was like, "What the hell? I'm losing all money doing this." Like, yeah, no shit. No, yeah, that's why they all were complaining the whole time. You dumb for what? What are you talking about? Yeah, we all know that. Because remember, all those fans were like, hey, it can't be that hard to run a team. Disguised Toast is doing it in NASL. And then he just turned around like, I'm losing $1 million a year. Like, I love it. I fucking love it. Or whatever it was. I mean, I might have made that number up.
I think you could even nostalgia bait a bunch of people who used to, like, Skara is a relatively big streamer now and has had nothing to do with League of Legends for years, but you could probably get him to like come back to some of this stuff. Poe Belter's a pretty big streamer in League of Legends.
Why not just get all the legends? Get fucking Void Boy, Dyrus, fucking Skara. You get all the legends to come back.
Cutie Pie's been streaming League of Legends again recently. Like, you could actually do some really cool stuff with the streamers that you have that would probably be much more, like, if you want to talk about ways to pull back your fan base, I think a lot of people who haven't watched League of Legends in years would be like, oh, Cutie Pie is a team and he's going to be talking smack against, like, I don't know, Skara's team, and they were teammates from back in the day. That actually sounds entertaining. It does sound entertaining. You could make some really good content around that.
Or just go mega cynical and basically make NACL, instead of being about up and coming talent, there isn't any. That's the joke. You just make it like the fucking, what do you call it? Like the Legends League, like the fucking senior PGA Golf Tour or something. Just make it actually Void Boy against Skara, against Dyrus, against the odd one or whatever. Why not? At this point, why not, mate? Why not have like the whole Hotshot GG just come back? Just fucking do it. Make Hotshot GG, St. Vicious and Shouts to play together and stream the core stream. I mean, there's your viewership solution. That would get so many views.
As usual, the Koreans are way ahead of this because the Koreans have actually been playing show matches with like Captain Jack and a bunch of their analysts on the Korean desk. They've been playing show matches against teams, which has been like pretty funny. So basically, a lot of those guys who are now on the LCK broadcast as analysts have been getting together and like playing show matches as shoulder content for the LCK. So it's like the old legends. I think I saw that they're playing against Carmine Corp maybe later this year as well. So there might be some. I think that's what I saw. I think there's some fun stuff to do there as well. So anyway, I think there are a lot of things. Look, I'm glad we have the best of threes coming back. At the end of the day, like, it's the right decision. And what's so annoying? Like, why we rage about this, guys, is it's annoying that Riot spends years and years and years and years and years making the wrong decision, and instead of just saying like, oh, we're changing this, they have to give you a bunch of bullshit on top of that about how it wasn't possible for it, even though it obviously was, and they have to justify it in the world's weirdest and most infuriating ways. It's like, just change it and don't say anything. How fucking hard is it? How fucking hard is it just to be like, guys, we realize that this is just the best for League of Legends, and you're like, great, I agree. Why did it take you so long? Oh, well, we couldn't do that. Just don't say anything. Why do we have to say anything about this? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why we have to be out there trumpeting a tiny viewership increase while not answering any other questions about where that viewer increase came from. It's just so, like, the problem with Riot is they're just so disingenuous and they just lie all the time. So it becomes impossible to take anything that they say at face value or that they actually are in good faith. It's like, we're releasing this Hall of Legends. Surprise, $500 skin. Not a cash grab, by the way. It's like, fuck you. Like, why can't we just do something right one time? Well, they did MSI right, so I guess we got that.
They got one.
It took a long time. It took almost 10 years, but we got there. It took 8 years or 7 years of MSI.
Oh, by the way, the one thing is, I can't remember, it's like a week ago I looked this up, but I think, unfortunately, I believe if you check that, it did imply that the format for the Esports World Cup is just single elim, though. I think it was implied somewhere in the post.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I mean,
just
they
going
only
off
have
the
a
top of my
week for
memory
the
more.
tournament, and like teams have to travel internationally. So I don't know how they could have a lot of time for a really cool format. That's the problem.
I mean, I will say when they did Gamers 8 in CS last year, it was just a single elimination bracket. It was just one bracket. You just started. So if you lost in the first round, you just went home after one match. So I wonder if it's just going to be something similar. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably seed it in a way where, like, you know, it'll be seeded probably very similarly to MSI, where it's like you can't be in the same side of the bracket as your own region, which will probably produce just many of the same matchups at MSI, which, you know, I'm not upset about.
No, it's all good. What people forget is this, Monty. The same matchups are only a problem if you only get one tournament a year and it's single limit and then they're done after that. Like, no one wants G2 and Fnatic to go to Worlds, play each other, and then one lose, and that's it for the year. But if you have multiple international tournaments, it's fine for them to meet once or twice, of course.
Yeah,
it's totally fine at that point.
So,
right, all right, here's the obvious one to pivot to now. Let's just do the topic on this, right? Because if you notice, Monty, that whole concept of the fearless draft, maybe I'm just living in a bubble. I feel like, even though I'm actually quite skeptical of it, every person in my circle on Twitter in the industry loves it, mate. They're all just... By the way, I'm amazed how many coaches want this shit. Like, the amount of people I've seen just giving all these... None of them give any of the negatives. They just only give positives and all these extra... Like, the first immediate thing I have a concern about, because I imagine you're a bit skeptical, is, to me, Monty, this... Like, I'll give you an example. This would be like if in Counter-Strike there was some way to make it so that you always had to keep playing different maps. I can tell you right now, Monty, that wouldn't make teams better on all the maps. It would make you better in the sense you played the maps you're bad on, but it would make you worse at your best maps. So the first thing I think of when I think of this, Monty, is when we all complain, think about classic ones that we all complain, for example, that like NA top laners can't play Fiora or Jace. You're going to just force them to play it now. They're not going to suddenly be good. They're not going to suddenly turn into Prime Nagori or the Shy. They're just going to be forced to play something they're bad at. Meanwhile, at the same time, let's see I'll pick someone current. So how about Licorice, who's coming back now, right? Licorice is famous for his Poppy. You remember that one? What if he could only ever play that every now and then because it's immediately then banned out for the rest of the series? So now you don't even get him on his best champions. Think of always bet. So you pick. So to me, there are, even though I acknowledge there are interesting aspects, I think there are so many fundamental negatives to this, man. Like, I'm not a fan of this concept, I have to say.
So I think the main problem with it is that I don't think it changes that much in a best of 3, and it might in a best of 5. But the problem with doing it at a best of 5 is the problem that Riot themselves addressed when they said that they would be doing it in NACL in best of 5s, which is that, you know, basically, if you want to run it in a best of 5 and have it be reasonable, essentially what they do is in game 4 of the best of 5, you only get 3 bans instead of 5, and in game 5 you get no bans, right? Because there are already 40 champions that are banned if you're running like the true fearless mode where each team can only play one champion one time, win or lose. So you've played the other, you know, your team has been...
By the way, for people who don't get it, what he's saying there is you can't let people on game 5. You've already played 4 different champions you can't play. You can't then have someone do 5 bans against one person. I have to play my 10th best champion. Like, that would almost destroy the whole concept of League of Legends at that point.
Yes.
It would just wreck it completely, wouldn't it? Imagine being the jungler like that, my boy. I have to pick my 10th best jungler. Like, what would that even be at this point?
So my point is, like, in a best of 3, where... You know, it's, you know,
yeah, I'm with you. It's not as bad in that.
So in a best of 3, you get basically 10 champions that are banned out, right? The ones that you've played previously. And then you get, there's still the bans that are coming in within the game. But I just don't think that, given that most pro players' champion pools are deep enough to survive that assault, like best of 3s, I don't know how much of a difference it make. If you go with the system that I am intrigued to see it with the system that NACL is using and see a game 5, because I'm curious what happens if 40 champions are banned out of the game. And you don't have any, and if, what I like about it is if there is like a permaban champion that's been happening that entire time, all of a sudden you can get it and actually play it, right? So if there's a signature champion for a player, I do agree that in theory it's hype in a game 5 to have that player on their best champion that was banned out for the rest of the series, right? That's like actually a hype moment. My problem is fundamentally though, is like, why do we not need this in other MOBAs? Why don't we need this in Dota? Right? And the answer is because Dota has significantly better champion diversity at the professional level, because Dota is a game that is balanced primarily around professional play, as far as I can tell. And League of Legends is not. It's why they buffed Cassante again recently. Like, why did we do that? He was already mega broken at the professional level. Watch Keen play him. That champion looked not broken. I mean, Keen's very good at it. I like watching Keen play Cassante, but it's like, it's clearly like too good at everything, right? And so with these issues, sometimes Riot will entirely gut a champion like Ryze, where if Ryze had a 50% win rate in solo queue, he would be permapicked at the professional level because of what he does. So sometimes there are these problems that, yeah, they've just admitted basically that their shit-ass design of Ryze and their a million week reworks of Ryze has never actually solved the problem, and he's too good at pro, so he has to be at like a 45% win rate in solo queue in order to accommodate for the professional scene. And even then, he still shows up. Keen played him, right? Keen played him at MSI. He's a good into Rumble in the top lane, turns out. But it is a game that is much more designed around the philosophy of balancing for the average player. And can you argue about that? League has a much bigger player base than Dota, right? That's just true. League's the biggest PC game in the world, probably. It used to be. I don't know if it is right now. But so it has been successful at that. However, me, the person who does not care about the pleb experience on the ladder, me who cares about the professional experience, this is a band-aid to fix the professional scene fundamentally. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I like it. I think that there are different applications for this. I will say I do like it at the amateur level because I think it's good for player development. At the professional level, I think it robs us of seeing a lot of players on their best champions. And people will say, oh, there are lots of champions that players don't play because they're not used to it. And that's true. Look at Aurelion Sol. He was mega broken, and it was only after nerfs this year that players started picking him up. And he was still mega broken even after those nerfs. So there's a lot of truth to the fact that players do what the comfort picks are, but there's also truth to the fact that it's balanced badly at the professional level. And that is the reason behind a lot of these picks. Like Cassante's kit is overloaded for professional players who could be really good at Cassante. And that's just true. The more mobility you add into the game, the more movement speed you add into the game, these are the most broken attributes you can put in the hands of professional players. Because when you're coordinated, that speed is incredibly useful. And being there half a second sooner can be the difference between winning a team fight and losing one. So it does matter. And when you give players the ability to reposition and play with their teammates well, it's just very powerful. So I don't know. Like I will say in terms of the LPL, I don't mind what they're doing with Fearless Draft Thorin because it's just for the first round where we have a bunch of good teams beating on shitters. And like, honestly, I think the new LPL format, while it's incredibly complicated, is actually quite good because the thing about it is that this phase of the LPL sucks. But they kind of made it interesting with Fearless Draft. So you have a reason to watch this stage, even though it's a bunch of like good teams beating on shitter teams for the most part. But the next stage, they remove Fearless Draft, but they pool all of the good teams together into one group. So we're going to get a bunch of really good LPL games because the problem with LPL is all of the teams, because they did one round robin, the good matches, like we would see one good match, like, whatever, BLG versus top esports at the very start of the split and then just not see it again until the playoffs. And like, that was a long time to wait for a good fucking game of League of Legends. So they've kind of solved this problem in an ingenious fashion, which is that, okay, we're gonna dump all of the bad teams into their own group to monkey knife fight. But the way we're going to sort the teams is by using Fearless Draft, which is interesting. So, I don't hate it in that capacity, in the fact that it's a limited part of the tournament.
I'll give you an example. I've realized, Monty, I was making the mistake again of arguing in like an enlightened, sort of sophisticated manner, using abstract ideas. I'll give a very specific example that's incredibly cynical. Here's why you, the fan watching, don't want the Fearless Draft, even though you think you do. Because I'm talking about the idea it's going to be in all of League of Legends. It'll just be the new format and we'll have it in best of fives. It'll be at Worlds. Here's why you wouldn't want it. Imagine if in the first split, APA had joined the LCS, we had the Fearless Draft in every single game. How would his champion pool have worked out in game 5? It would be terrible. Him and Young would never even be at MSI, mate. It wouldn't even be possible. They would be fucked. They could last like 2 games in a series. And I'm talking about when they're rookies, when they first joined and they had limited champion. It'd be a nightmare.
It might be a nightmare now.
Could be. Who knows?
So I don't know. Like it it feels bad to artificially limit players at the professional level. And here's the thing, Thorin, I didn't have any problem finding MSI really entertaining without Fearless Draft. The problem is, guys, you are bored because Riot has created a circuit where we don't get good games frequently, or we don't get hype matches.
That's even a better point than you realize, Monty. Isn't one of the points we have made after like the last 3 or 4 international tournaments, like we like the world's meta, this MSI meta was good. I think I'd actually say for real, the last sort of year and a half or 2 years of league have had pretty good metas, Monty.
Yeah.
Like
2022 Worlds is very good.
Maybe you get like one role like mids Oriana fucking Azir or whatever, like, which is classic. But you maybe get that. But aside from that, I actually think the diversity is very good in the champion pool. Like, I agree with you. I've never been watching Worlds like there's not enough champions picked. Like that's an old school. That's like a take that's like 4 years out of date at this point in time.
Well, and also like just ask yourself, were there weird picks in the finals? There was a fucking carry Blitzcrank game at MSI finals. Yep. It was great. Who was complaining about that?
Think about that, like in the upper bracket final or whatever it was, like they had that, I can't remember which one it was, like fucking Knight picked Vex. That's not even played now.
Karthus came out in the jungle when it had been played the entire tournament. Like, good teams have deep champion pools, and they will try and get advantages by surprising you. Like, it's not necessary. You guys think you want Fearless Draft because you want ways to make Riot's shitty circuit more exciting. It's not.
By the way, the key word there, you notice, is exciting. All they want, this is one of the worst things about esports, is a bunch of people who will burn everything down to have a tiny, essentially, here's the analogy. They will burn everything we built down just to get 1 second of the heat from the flame. That's just a novelty. Fans just do it. It's why they always tell you that thing that infuriates me, that they want upsets. You motherfuckers hate upsets, because once the upset happens, you don't watch the next match. You argue against your own fucking interests, you idiots. Because here's what I don't get, Monty. I get why LS wants this. Like you just said before, this is everything LS dreamed of, because now if there's like some secret iPhone that's broken, then if you listen to him, you get like an extra pick in game 4 and you win the series, don't you? The problem I don't get is, why does average Joe, who already doesn't want to watch League of Legends, pretend that he wants to watch a game 4 where all the best champions are banned out and someone even fucked up their like draft in game 3, so now they don't even get to redo the draft. Like, you just can't do anything. Like, you think you want that, but you don't. Like, that is, you will tune out of these matches, I'm telling you. Like, they also haven't thought that. I agree with you on the ban thing, though. The ban thing to make game 5 almost like a blind pick component, where if nothing was picked, you can now pick anything. That's not bad. That's not a bad compromise. I'll give you that.
Well, the thing is, too, is that now we have to use, nobody even knows what Fearless Draft is, by the way, because there's multiple definitions of it. So in the LPL,
that's true as well.
What they're doing, what they call Fearless Draft, is that you can't pick champions you have picked previously. In LCS, or NALCL, the amateur league to LCS, they are doing it so you can't pick what they call true fearless, which I like, come on guys, we have to come up with some different like, what the fuck is Fearless Draft? Okay, you can't just call one fearless and one true fearless. You can't pick a champion. What they're saying is that you can't pick a champion that either team has played. So which is it, guys? What is the format? And you can experiment with this.
People haven't thought of them, Monty. Here's what I would immediately do, and you would do this as well if you were a coach. My entire strategy, my entire metagame for draft, Monty, if you use the true Fearless Draft, is no longer even about my champions. I'm going to make my first 2 drafts in the draft. I'm going to make my first 2 game drafts, Monty, now a best of 5, just so you can never get your comp. I'm going to pick champions I don't even really like, just so now you can never play it for the rest of the series. Enjoy. By the way, I'm putting APA on fucking, like, you know, he could be on like some shit he never play, because after that we burned it for you. Now you can't beat us with it. That actually is a weird angle too, isn't it? What a strange angle that is. It's basically just encouraging sabotage. Which is, because I'm with you. I don't mind. It's not as bad if it's the one that you picked and you have to change your pick. That's different. I'm with you.
You may hate Cassante, but at the end of the day, like, Keen deserves to be really good at Cassante. And like taking, or for example, taking Aurelion Sol away from APA means that you get somebody worse on Aurelion Sol that you have to watch, and you don't get to watch APA, who is good at Aurelion Sol, play it. Like, who wants that experience? Who wants to be like...
That's what I don't get, Monty. I feel like, for real, I get something different out of sports than other people. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the players I actually do enjoy watching, even though he wasn't the best quarterback, was Matthew Stafford, mate. And one of the reasons why is... Because he just fucking runs the plays. Like, if he has Megatron, spoil it, he's passing it to Megatron. Same way as, Aaron Rodgers when he had Devontae Adams. 90% of the balls go to them. That doesn't get boring because they're really good at it. Like, who, by the way, if you didn't enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers pass the ball to Devontae Adams, you don't like American football. That's it. It would be like saying in basketball, you don't like Karl Malone and John Stockton doing a pick and roll. Yeah. You don't want to go, we can only do pick and roll in game 1, John. Like, you want to see it all the time. It's the hardest strategy to stop. Because how were you, Monty? If Kane is unstoppable on Kissante, I want to see him play every game. I want to see every top lane have to battle that and see if they can clear that bar. And if they can't, tough shit.
Let me pick a less controversial champion. So let's say we want to watch Bin play Jax. All right?
Okay.
If Bin wins a game on Jax and hard carries, are you sitting there being like, I sure wish Bin couldn't play Jax again in this series? Like, no, of course you're not. You want to watch more Bin Jax. Like, it's just stupid. Like, you are making game quality worse for novelty's sake. And if a player is really good at a champion, then that should just become a part of the pick and ban and draft, which it does already, and it is fine at doing. So I don't get it, guys. Like, I think it also, by the way, Thorin, I think it also just changes how pro players have been playing the game. Like, nobody's asking this question, which is like, you have literally designed a system for 15 years that is about pro players developing a specific style of play in champion pool. And now you're saying that these players who have worked their asses off to become pro have to play just broader champions. Like, you're saying, well, before it was really great that you could play 10 champions really well, but now you might have to play 20 champions kind of well. Can you do that? Like, you're changing the skill set required for professional players, and that's fucking dumb. Like, these players became pro because you told them this is the skill set that they needed. And now you're just going to completely change things.
This out there. This is just to be a little shit. It's not even a real point, Monty. But it doesn't even work for Riot, because now in the future, how are you ever going to sell any more Faker skins? Like, oh, that's not what he played in like game 1 of that one series. Exactly. He doesn't even, you're not even playing the champion anymore. What's happening with that?
So I don't know. Like I said, I'm okay with it at the amateur level because I do think it's interesting at the amateur level. And I do think that the best way to do this is obviously not to hard force a solution. If you think that fearless mode will increase pro player champion pools, then do it at the amateur level. So by the time those players become professional players, they have bigger champion pools, right? It just takes time. It just takes time.
I'm just looking forward to Froggen coming back to LEC, because logically he'd be the god of this, because in game 3 he's picking Vel'Koz, game 4 he's on the Anivia, game 5 probably Lee Sin. You know what I mean? Talk more. He can do it all. The joke is he already had the meta pool, didn't he? He had his own bullshit meta pool, so it's already over.
And if you're a Faker fan, you better fucking hope this fearless mode doesn't come for T1, by the way.
Oh, he's done. He's done if that happens.
He would be toasted right now.
Because here's the thing as well. He actually would be the most obvious player. You would just put all the 5 bans on in game 4 or whatever, game 3. Like, why wouldn't you make him play like his 9th best champion? Go for it, mate. You go for it. You're 8th or 9th best champion.
You guys, we all saw his Akali with our eyes at MSI. It wasn't great. And what do you think is a bigger fan draw, like a bigger viewership draw? Faker continuing to play this game or fearless mode?
By the way, I actually want to bring that aspect up, because I'll give you an example. Here's the analogy for you. One thing I'll give a rare olive branch to the LeBron stans, the LeBron sexuals, as they're called, Monty, which is the one thing I agree with them is impressive about LeBron, is that it's not just that he played like 21 years, because by the way, he also like took loads of games off, so he didn't really play the same amount as like someone playing 20 years in the past, but he did play like the actual games he played at an extremely high level. He's still really good. He's still probably, if people don't know it, the 10th best or 15th best player in the NBA. He's still pretty good. He's not the best, but he's still pretty good, right? That's very impressive. But one thing I don't get is this. So every other player who had that longevity in general, Monty, by the time they're in year 20, they're going to be degraded and they're going to be half as good a player. That's my point I'm making, right? What I don't get is this. Why is that never used against Faker, by the way? Right? I always say this about Deft. The thing about Deft and Rookie that's impressive is, bro, if I just took the nameplates off and showed you these players today, you'd say they're one of the best in the world. You'd be like, holy shit, this Deft guy, is that like some up-and-coming ADC? It looks fucking cracked. If I showed you Rookie on his picks, like, you'd think this guy's a monster. Like, is that like the next up and coming like LPL mid? If you watch Faker, since we've all made this argument that like in theory, the idea your mechanics degraded, like his mechanics have degraded, bro. The number one thing he lost is his hands. Like the rest of it, if anything, scaled up. He's probably smarter now. He's probably better at understanding the game. He's probably a better shot caller. He's probably a better captain. But actually, his hands is the number one thing that did drop off, isn't it? Like even when he has those like brilliant Ari games, it usually is more like his decision making that's brilliant. It's not really that he's doing like a Chovy-esque, like impossible riding the edge of mechanics. Like how did he do that? Like that's actually probably the most underwhelming thing about Faker. When people tried to tell me like he's still the GOAT now, it's like he was the GOAT for what he did in the past, you idiots. Like his actual game now is half as good. And he used to have a champion ocean. He used to, by the way, Faker once upon a time probably had the biggest champion of anyone ever. It was crazy.
Yeah, and also we know he's injured, right? And his injury,
has he still got that problem? Is it implied that's just permanent and chronic or something?
Look, Thorin, I don't know another way to interpret his performance at MSI falling off a cliff from his performance in the spring split. Why was he so much worse at MSI mechanically than he was in the spring split? It's just weird. It's weird. Like they're not going to say anything about that, but I mean, it makes sense that after playing the entire spring split, maybe his injury is flaring up again. They haven't said anything, but it is suspicious.
Right, get Porby in. Sub Porby in. You know what's sad as well? That would work every year. You know, Monty, unironically, if T1 like loses a couple of games early to Hanwha Life and JT, they should actually just sub Faker out for 3 weeks in the middle of the split and go, he's injured. Make Porby play, but give Porby no resources, not to say he's just trash. Then do the same thing. Just bring Faker back in, start winning games. Just do the same script over again. It would work. The sad thing is it would actually emotionally work on the fans, I guarantee. I love it. It's so stupid.
Well, anyway, so yeah, I think that, look, I think when we look at
imagine the rage of T1 fans when their team loses like world semi in a fearless draft.
Yeah, I don't think you guys want fearless draft for like the entirety of, like, I understand why it's an LPL, and if you guys don't know, basically the new LPL format is they play fearless draft for the first stage. I actually like the new LPL format. I'd be interested to hear what you think about it, Thorin. But they divided the teams into 4 different groups, which is awkward because there's 17 instead of 16 teams. So one group has 5 teams in it, and they play fearless mode in best of 3s. And they play double round robin in these groups. And by the way, if you're not a super big LPL fan, you can actually just ignore this entire part of LPL because nothing interesting is probably going to happen for the first few weeks of competition, which honestly, Thorin, makes it better because there's too much fucking League of Legends in the world anyway right now. And what happens?
It's like you say, Monty, they've actually done a very good job. This is also, I will just say, where the league is bullshit, by the way. I noticed that I've been told seeding can never be done, Monty. It's actually wrong. It's morally wrong to seed. But magically, they've seeded these LPL groups amazingly. So as you say, it's like a couple of good teams and then bad teams. There's never one group of 4 really good teams, you notice, Monty. They're all like a world's group, like 2 good teams, 2 bad. This is so cynically, but I'm with you. Like, it means no good team will be eliminated. You know, yeah. It's actually been seeded quite well.
I mean, nobody's getting eliminated, right? That's the thing, is that basically they're just containing the toxic waste for the next stage. Yep. They're sorting the toxic waste right now, and then they're going to put all the bad teams in their own shitty group. I mean, I love this because what happens is, so the bottom 2 teams, so from every group, so the bottom 8 teams in total, then get shuffled off into their own toxic waste, their toxic waste containment zone for the second part of LPL. And then the top 2 teams and top 3 teams of the group with 5 teams in it all get put in their own group, which should be an actual banger.
It is. Who the fuck is going to watch the lower team group? Like, nobody. No one's going to. That's going to be the NACL of LPL, man. Like, no one's watching
It's
that
great.
group.
They have too many teams. They have too many games. I fucking love it. So basically, in the 2 groups, once they've sorted out the sludge into the containment pool, they're going to get a single round robin of all Group A teams, which, by the way, the top 9 teams in the LPL, all going head to head, all those games are going to be good, guys. All of them are going to be great. So we're going to get a bunch of good games.
And in this scenario, like you say, you avoid the problem before of like a true marquee matchup being on week 2, because at the beginning you start with these other matches. You get the other ones out the way, and then we get, like, once everyone's warmed up on the patch, then we get the real fucking matches. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's great. And so we get all of these, and then basically of the good group, all of those teams, all of them have a chance to get into All of them will have a chance to get into the playoffs. The top 7, so 7 out of the top 9 teams automatically go into the bracket, which is great. The bottom 2 teams then compete against the top 4 teams from the sludge pool to see, they play a play-in game, which is a single best of 5, and then whoever wins out of those. So even if you're in the bottom group, as long as you're top 4, you have a chance to play a best of 5 to get into the
By the way, it
summer
also
playoffs.
means if you think about it, you can be a good team and start badly. You can have a player injury or bring someone in. Like, it actually still allows you, like, the chance, if you are good, you can still make it through the format. Like, actually, I'm with you. The problem is it's incredibly complicated to explain to a casual fan. But actually, these changes are pretty good in general. Like, the sort of things I would like to do.
The thing about it is that you don't, if this is all confusing to you, you don't need to know the format. Here's what you need to know.
Oh, no.
This first part of LPL is not going to be good. You probably shouldn't watch it. The second part, there is a group called Group A that is going to contain the 9 best teams in the LPL. That is going to be where you want to watch pretty much all of those games, and then we get playoffs. So it works for me because it actually just makes the quality of games higher in general. And if you are somebody who wants to like watch these initial set of games, they've even like baited it for you with the tantalizing Fearless draft. So at least it's kind of interesting. Like, I really like this format. I think they did a good job. I would have never thought up this format. It's a very weird idea, but I think it's a very good one. Because, like, I would never, for example, have been like, well, we're going to use Fearless Draft for only the first phase. Like, I don't think I would do that. But I do think it's a clever hook to get people involved. When you know the matches are going to be bad, but you're also trying to solve for, you know, making things better later on, basically. So, how do you feel about it? You enjoying this?
Well, I think it's interesting. I do think the one flaw the LPL had was, this is actually why, I mean, we know this because we did this for Flashpoint, but one of the reasons why for Flashpoint, we actually ended up choosing formats, which essentially explicitly compromise competitive integrity, is it's the same as the discussion we've had all those times about the bracket reset in double elim. Look, in theory, I agree. It should be a hard, fast rule. Like, you get 2 lives, and after the 2 lives, but we just know that makes the final not as good. So you have to have like a mix between WWE/entertainment and then also a real serious sport, especially because at this point in time, all the money is generated by people watching the sport for entertainment. It's not via passes or fucking tickets or merchandise. It's all about having eyeballs watch the game. So essentially, in my opinion, as long as you don't actively ruin the match, any of these changes are fine if they just make for more good games that we're all going to enjoy in a cool way that'll actually be more incentivized to be exciting. So I actually think these changes in general are good. I mean, like I said, I will cynically just not watch most of the games in the shit group.
Well, course, I mean, there's probably going to be some really...
That'll be Thunder Talk versus fucking anyone's legend all day long, and I won't need to watch it. Don't worry about it.
I mean...
That's the thing I'll never understand to this day, Monty. You know, when fans used to actually say, but I don't want best of 3s in LCS because who wants to see Dignitas against IMT? You're not obliged to watch it. Just don't watch it. And then when Team Liquid plays Cloud9, enjoy the best of 3. I don't get this, mate. Like, that would be like me saying this, Monty. Like, sadly, I don't know the actual networks in America, so I'm going to have to make one up here. That would be like me being like, but I want to watch The Sopranos. I don't want to have to watch Sex and the City. It's like, just watch The Sopranos then. Like, I know that's probably not the same network, but that would be the announcement. You don't have to watch it. Oh, there we go. I nailed it. You don't actually have to actually accidentally nail that one. You don't have to watch both. Just fucking watch the one you like. Let other people watch the other one.
Yeah. Also, just as a point, there are probably going to be some really funny, terrible matches in the bottom group, like some really bad ones that'll probably just be entertaining because they're bad. So in a way, they've actually like cracked the code on entertainment for the LPL, which was so boring with the single round robin with 17 teams previously. So,
by the way, are you ready for people to get really mad at the hypocrisy? But it's not. It's actually explicitly a practical application of what I just said earlier. I don't mind watching Fearless Draft of LPL teams, Monty. If you don't know, by the way, guys, the joke about Knight is I actually get mad that he goes 2 better in international tournaments. He should always have been picking his Vex and stuff. That guy has an insane champion pool. I want the LPL players. I'm up for some of them going fucking 8 champions deep, mate. Some of them can do it. I'm cynical enough to not believe APA on his fucking 7th best champion is what I want to see. I don't think so. That's my thought. I don't
know. Speaking of NA teams, what do you think? Because this was a while ago now, but we didn't have an episode. What do you think of what's been going on with Dignitas? I'm curious.
Here's the problem, Monty. This is essentially one that I knew would make people upset. Because remember, in the modern day, Monty, everyone just wants you to get talent. You know what I love about this move, Monty? It proves what I thought all along, which is when you say you're developing talent, that's just code for, I don't want to buy Bjergsen for $4 million. I want to just get someone cheap. So what I'm going to say is, maybe the guy I'm getting for 500k could be a Bjergsen one day. Like, that's like some fucking... Dude, you do know that's like the negotiating tactic of like a fucking market merchant sale in a bazaar in fucking the Middle East. Like, would maybe he become your Bjergsen? You buy very good price. I give you excellent. I give you beautiful face discount, Reginald. You want my Bjergsen? Like that's like some cynical shit. So in my opinion, your job as GM in all these teams always is sign the best player with the most reliable possible performance level. So even though people are mad at these names because it looks like they're just picking old players, they're picking legendary old players though. Like they're picking players where even if one ends up being bad, you can pretty reliably pick some of these people to be pretty good in this split. You know what I mean? Like I actually think these are good moves personally. I don't know why everyone's hating on it. I think everyone's doing that fake thing where they want to just see talent developed. Like, look, maybe the XU guy got slightly fucked. He seemed all right, but I actually think the other changes are generally pretty good. I'll put it this way: I would sign all these players if they were available. I think it's pretty. For Dignitas, I'm way more interested now. Way more.
Yeah. Look, I think also we have to temper our expectations. Like XU did get kind of screwed, and I think what's lame about that is like they obviously strung him along and then signed Spica. Yep. But it's like,
and you have to play with a sort of a shit team too. So if you're the jungler, I always feel bad for you if you get kicked after you were on a bad team. Like it's not like he got to have Jensen and fucking Licorice, did it? You know,
right? But the thing about Spica is that Spica had some pretty bad performances on FlyQuest, but FlyQuest as a team was coming apart. And are we really saying that, you know? What I don't understand about the narrative, people are like, well, we're just getting those old veterans. What are you talking about? Spica's a relatively recent player. He's not a Sven or a Jensen
like
who are also on this roster.
Yeah.
By the way, Spica is 1 year older than XU, guys. He is 23. XU is 22. Okay, like there's not really a substantive difference. They were both born in the year 2001, by the way. They're born in the same fucking year. They're less than a year apart. So what are we talking about? That XU is some sort of his talent is, you know, he's been stifled from developing his talent. Spica is basically exactly the same age as he is. And Spica is an MVP of the LCS at one point in time. So like, why wouldn't you take Spica right now? Yes, he had some bad times on FlyQuest, but you can always get XU back. Like, is it really a massive downgrade? As for Sven, he's very reliable, very vocal in game. I don't know how well he'll transition back to being ADC, but he's a grinder. I'm sure he can figure it the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Something cool. This will actually be cool for people. Like, even though, true, when I did the interview, it's possible Licorice already knew Sven was going to join Monty. I'll shade that in. It's plausible. When I did my reflections with Licorice, I think I recorded it like a month ago, right? At the time, they hadn't announced all these players would join. Here's a very interesting detail. When I asked him one of my quick fire questions at the end, and I said, who is the most skilled player you ever played with? He picked Sven as ADC, by the way, for Cloud9.
Interesting.
That would shock a lot of people. But by the way, loads of players think that guy's way better than the public record.
Yeah, he's very good.
I mean, I did say he has won a lot of championships with somebody who gets treated like he's shit. He's won loads in both regions. So that's actually why I think that roster's fire, mate. Licorice, Jensen, and Sven. That's a banger.
What narrative are we going with, guys? Like, NA players are lazy. That's why they don't do well. You should love Sven. He's not lazy at all.
Yeah,
he's a fucking mega grinder, guys. Like, if you want somebody who's really dedicated to the game, Sven is your guy. What else has he got? Oh, yeah, he's a brilliant personality for the league. He talks shit. He's unafraid of voicing his opinion. He puts himself out there all the time.
Also the
he loves doing interviews.
Everyone loves to complain about the LCS mentality where they're all like too soft and won't say things. This guy had to be benched from Cloud9 because they couldn't have him and Perks in a review because they were holding, like, the problem there is they were holding people's feet to the fire too much and everyone's like, my feet are burning. Like, this guy, it's actually what you guys want to like kick up the arse of these people. Because I think the other reason it's cool is this, mate. They joined Dignitas money. Not they're joining Team Liquid. If you're Dignitas, these are pretty good gambles to take. And as I say, doesn't this instantly make the LCS way more exciting? Like, between this and the Shopify one, dude, I actually think this LCS split is going to be fire. Look at the parity. There's so many good teams. Like, I actually think the core of the teams is pretty fucking good, mate. I think the playoffs are going to be fire in LCS now.
I actually really like the Shopify roster because they're highly experimental. You know, I think Insanity is a very fun player to watch. I don't really like Fake God, but you know. That's where we're at with this roster.
Oh, but the rest of the players are legit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got Tomio instead of Boogie. Like, Boogie was all right. I don't know if he deserved to get benched, but from what I don't watch, NACL, but people told me that Tomio was actually pretty good in there, so maybe he deserves a shot at this position. But I mean, I'm interested to see Shopify Rebellion. Like, I always was like, what fun stuff are they cooking up this week? Like, they were entertaining, even if they weren't very good. But people seem happy about Tomio like getting that opportunity, and I don't know enough to say one way or another. And that's the same shit. People are like, Monty, what do you think about the NFL draft? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't watch college. I have no idea. I have no idea. I only watch the professional scene, guys. With the Korean players as well. But there's also C9 coming back with Thanatos in the top lane. So I think there's a lot of interesting
Dude,
things.
I don't ironically think this league's really good now. Like, the only team I don't give a fuck about is Immortals. That's it. The rest of them,
even Immortals had pretty good performances. Like, Castle and Mask were not
bad. They weren't terrible, but I'm just not interested in those players. I think the actual rest of the league is like a really interesting mix of players. We've got the imports, we've got the NA players, we've got the legendary grandfathered players. We've got a really good mix of players here.
And the other thing we didn't even mention, just have the 2 days a week. It's like a manageable amount of games for people to watch with the 8 teams and the best of threes.
By the way, I love the idea that you have the gall to talk about viewership and then only kill Super Weeks after the viewership's tanked.
Well, they just moved the matches to another week of play, which is the right move, right? Like, you just have more weeks of play, and which makes sense because they had very few amounts of weeks played. Like, there were those huge gaps, and guess what? They've got a huge gap again. I hate to tell you guys, they've got another multi-week gap. Part of it's due to the Esports World Cup, but part of it is just due because they're taking time off, and they're doing 2 weekends in their stupid little sub studio. But remember, guys, it isn't that Valorant is taking priority. It's just that Valorant scheduled it first. It's just that Valorant scheduled it first, so they have to move. Yeah, you just let me know, guys. You let me know when Valorant is in the closet and LCS is back on the main stage. You let me know, because surely they should be scheduling that for next year now. So that should not be an issue next year. I
still don't get, Monty. I still don't understand how these owners just stand for that, Monty. Remember, not all the VCT partnership teams are the same teams that are in LCS. If I'm an LCS owner who bought in for millions of dollars, you're giving priority to the league where they didn't even have to pay anything and you just partner with them, give them the revenue. And also, isn't the League of Legends a bigger game? What are we doing here? Why are we doing like the Valve thing where you treat CS like the bitch fucking redheaded stepchild in the attic eating cod heads, and then Dota, the cretin, like, is sat like a fucking golden throne. Like, would you like more caviar, Dota? Like, why are we doing this but with Valorant and League, for fuck's sake?
Well, Thorin, no one's going to raise a stink because most of those owners of LCS slots also have Valorant slots, and those slots, but here's the thing, Thorin, those slots they don't own. They just are given them by the grace of Riot, and they could lose them at any point in time. And you know what happens if you say the bad things about Riot? Well, then, or you make a stink, they just get rid of you instantly. So they don't want to lose their partnership with Valorant. So they're not, Cloud9's not going to be out there trying to.
The thing I'll never stop. I'm so glad Richard told me that story. It was like 10 years ago. He told me that story that at Riot they actually had for real like dossiers on people like me and him. And then if we said or tweeted anything, I had to add to it. Because the joke I've always made is, man must be like the fucking never-ending story. My shit just never ends. It's just always like the next fucking.
They just have a filing cabinet now.
Just new tweets just spawn, because I never stopped, did I? I've probably done like 1 million tweets about Riot at this point. Like, it's outrageous. And knowing that just makes me want to do more. That's the problem with me. I have that sort of like, almost like pyrotechnic aspect. Like, if you tell me not to burn shit down, I want to do it even more now, don't I? Want to burn it even more. So, what a world. What a world.
Yeah, it is super funny. Okay, so that's what I got for this episode. Obviously, next week, guys, we're going to be back in the thick of things in the next couple of weeks. LEC is starting this weekend. LPL is already going on. LCK and LCS start next week after our show. But I'm sure we'll have some stuff to talk about. We are going to do some viewer questions, guys. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do viewer questions for you. See you then.
Right, we're going to do the viewer questions portion. If you don't know, the way you can support us and also ask questions is if you subscribe to our Discord, the Last Free Nation Discord. There is a channel, especially there, where you'll be able to put questions in that Monty will pick from. And if it is interesting / intriguing / well, it depends. Sometimes we do them all, but it's usually more like we curate the best ones.
I usually try and get to them all. But yeah, I think we'll be able to do most of them this week. What are some of your favorite underrated shows that you find to be better than a similar show that is mainstream? For example, right around the 6th season of Black Mirror release, Thorin suggested the show Electric Dreams on Twitter. I found most of the episodes of Electric Dreams more poignant and thought-provoking than most of what Black Mirror offered in its later seasons. Better than a similar show. I mean, I can offer you some very lesser-known shows that might be interesting, but I don't know if they're like better than a mainstream show. You know what I mean? I'm not going to choose something that's limited to that. One thing that I have always advised that people watch is a Canadian show called Slings and Arrows, which is about a Shakespeare festival. It's 3 seasons. I think it's only like 8 half-hour episodes or something like that a season, so it's relatively short. That is about them 3 years putting on different Shakespeare plays that I really love as somebody who was in theater, but if it's really well done. What else? Another show that I think is extremely underrated and I recommend to people. I've recommended to Thorin as well. I don't know if he's watched it, but I know Richard loves it, which is a show called Brockmire, which is about a kind of drug and sex addicted play-by-play baseball commentator. And that one is extremely funny. And also it stars Hank Azaria, the famous voice actor, and he is absolutely amazing in terms of his performance. And nobody has actually seen this show. Again, it's like 4 seasons long, 4 seasons long, but it's also very short. It's like 8 episodes that are 30 minutes, but it's extremely funny and it's a very good dark comedy. You have any recommendations?
Yeah, I've got 2, and I will actually fit the theme, and I'll make one of them just legit, and then one is just to tilt Monty. So first of all, I will say that obviously everyone loves Game of Thrones. Now, I will say this is a slight cheat because I do think the early seasons of Game of Thrones are very good, but I think the last half of that show was genuinely just diminishing returns. You know, it wasn't. I always say it wasn't just the last season, guys. It was a breaking point. Terrible. The last one just pushed it well beyond the pale is the problem. So I would say the obvious one, because a lot of people still haven't seen it, is just watch the fucking series Rome that they said they had to cancel to make Game of Thrones.
That's
even
one
has some of the same actors in. Like some of the actors in that are unbelievable. Like the guy, if you don't know, who plays the King Beyond the Wall in Game of Thrones, he is fucking Julius Caesar, and he does an amazing job.
Yeah, Kieran Hines.
The guy, I forget the name of the guy who plays, that British actor who plays fucking Mark Antony. He fucking kills it in that as well.
Ray Stevens, who was in Ahsoka, the terrible Star Wars show recently, is Titus Polo in that, and he is fucking great. But I mean, that show is one of my all-time favorites.
There's one, just because so many people haven't seen it. And then the other one, because I'm trying to do his theme where it's like similar to a show that's more popular. This is just to tilt Monty, but I also do believe it, which is, as opposed to watching some sort of cliched egalitarian show like Deep Space Nine, just watch Babylon 5.
No, a lot of people like Babylon 5. No, I appreciate
Babylon 5's
that.
Pretty good.
But I love DS9. DS9 is Richard and I both share a deep and abiding love for DS9. But yeah, Babylon 5. I've watched parts of it. I think it's good. The problem is the production value is super bad on that show, so you have to get over that. Yeah. But conceptually and philosophically, I think it's very interesting. With the Olympics,
I just thought on that one, what I liked about that, if people don't know, is as opposed to Star Trek, which is mainly just self-contained episodes of one plot. What I liked about Babylon 5 is it tried to have a big arc as well. It's probably actually the bigger stories are the better ones in that one, as opposed to the individual episodes.
I mean, that's what I like about DS9, right? Yeah, because it's not, by the end in the Dominion War, it's not episodic. With the Olympics coming up, which sports do you plan on following? And what will you definitely not be watching? What is it, Summer Olympics?
I don't know about you, Monty, but here's the problem. I've pointed this out on shows in the past. I don't know if it was ever this one. But in the UK, when we used to just have the 4 terrestrial TV channels, and most people who weren't middle class or rich couldn't afford cable or satellite, so we just had 4 channels. Famously, you had to it wasn't like you chose what to watch. You watch what's on. And actually, sports culture in the UK is that you just watch whatever sport is on. So actually, famously in my era, everyone watches everyone. You watch a bit of darts, a bit of snooker, a bit of rugby, a bit of cricket. You watch a bit of everything. So back in the day, I used to watch the Olympics. I have to say, Monty, I haven't watched the Olympics since fucking Mykles Michael Phelps was in it or whatever. Like, so it's like a long time now since I was into it. So I'm not going to be watching any sport. I actually don't care about almost any Olympic sport, I'm afraid.
So I vastly prefer the Winter Olympics because I'm a skier, and I think that winter sports are more interesting. Like, I think that there's something really compelling about bobsled and like ski racing.
You can't get enough of that powder, Monty.
I can. I fucking
those
love
parties in Aspen. That's it. Yeah. And the skiing's pretty good as well, isn't it?
I mean, if you've been to Aspen, you know those things go hand in hand. Just gonna say that.
Yeah, of course.
But I love skiing. I love winter sports. I find Winter Olympics more entertaining, but I mean, I like a lot of the sports that are like Summer Olympics. I like diving a lot. I think that's fun to watch. I don't like swimming. I don't like running. Gymnastics, always interesting to watch. Just I think it's pretty spectacular. But
you know my problem with gymnastics, Monty? It might not even be true anymore, but the reason I can never appreciate gymnastics is the same reason I can't appreciate at the circus when the bear climbs onto the chair. I know someone whipped the shit out of it for 10 years to make it do that. So same concept when I see the 12-year-old Eastern European girl do all that. She wasn't doing that because that's dope and she loved it. Some fucking drill sergeant just made her do that or she didn't get any food that night. You know what I mean? Like that, I can't take that out of my mind when I'm watching it, unfortunately.
I mean, it's basically probably the entire Chinese Olympic team, but not just gymnastics, but yeah, there's definitely an element of that. But I prefer Winter Olympics. Freestyle skiing, the half pipe stuff, I think is so cool at the Winter Olympics. Really fun to watch. So I prefer
the freeze pipe stuff.
The freeze pipe stuff. I mean, that's definitely going on with the snowboarders too.
Sure. Yeah, the joke is that is their niche. Yeah. One thing, by the way, except for the fact in the modern day, I imagine like all sports, they probably do drug test you. The joke is if there's actually ever one sport you should allow people to be high doing, it's probably the snowboarding, like half pipe or whatever. They'd probably be better, unironically, guys. If you know what those guys are like, they'd probably actually be better. In the same ways, without dropping too many dimes, if about 15 years ago you had just allowed Quake 1v1 players to take weed, they would actually be better. I'm not joking. They would actually literally be like more sort of in the, they'd almost seem like they practice that way or something, Monty. You know what I mean? That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say on that one.
What are your opinions on Villeneuve's Incendies? I haven't seen it, so I don't have an opinion.
I think that might be the only one of his films I haven't seen.
I've heard it's very good, but I have not seen it. It was one of his Canadian. It was one of his Canadian films. Say,
after doing our series, I'll probably go and watch it now.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to see it. I'm not too hyped for his future films, but I also want to see all his good films. Yeah.
You guys are not ready. Our Villeneuve arc has been doing good viewership. You guys are not prepared for the roasting of Dune.
Oh, they're gonna cry so hard.
Which is hilarious, by the way, Thorin. Because what I love about that episode is we spend like an hour and a half roasting that movie, and then at the end, Richard's just like 7 out of 10. It's still kind of good. Of course. But you would think we were going to give it like a 1 out of 10, but it's still pretty good. But I think a lot of it was just a reaction to the popular opinion. And like, I also, I thought more highly of Dune 2 on my first viewing. When I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, wait, this is much worse than I thought it was.
Which, by the way, that's one of the things we stress in the episode. That's also why it's so criminal, because all the other Villeneuve films are the opposite. The rewatch is usually better.
Yeah. So, and I think there were two things that kind of made me dial back my opinion on Dune. One of them was rewatching it, but one of them was also just watching his other movies in close proximity to that one and realizing that they're all so much fucking better than Dune. Especially like Prisoners. I think especially Prisoners. Like Sicario is good, but it's still predictable and like the plot isn't that interesting. It's mostly the way it's done is interesting. Whereas I think if you go back and look at Arrival and Prisoners, they're just like much more conceptually unique, which I appreciated. How do you improve your macro or decision making in a game or sport? With enough practice, most people could train their muscle memory or at least be proficient in micro or technical skills. However, macro requires critical thinking and creativity. I mean, you watch tape is the answer. Like, if you look at the way that NFL quarterbacks does it, like the question of how did Peyton Manning get really good at NFL macro and making adjustments at the line is he outworked everybody else. He was there at the training facility at 5 a.m. watching tape. That's what he did.
His wife told a story to Ray Lewis, supposedly, which is why Ray Lewis then did this, that Peyton Manning had a whole room in his house just as like a home cinema where you watch film. And the joke is, Ray Lewis said, when I found that out, I immediately built a film room as well, because I was like, if this fucker's studying me, I need to study. And so, no, the joke is, you're right, Monty.
I mean, you got Ray Lewis got very good at that.
Do. You do the same concept as a VOD review. You take a match that you've already played or seen, you pause it, and you ask yourself, what were my options? And the idea is, if you drill the sort of flow chart thinking enough, eventually that will just be what you instinctively will know what to do in that moment, right?
Yep. So you watch film is the answer. I mean, professional athletes do this. The best ones, you know, the guys who are like Ray Lewis, who are basically defensive quarterbacks, in effect, you know, they do this too. Like the best guys who are the linebackers or the safeties who are making adjustments for the defense are there watching the film as well. That's why they're valuable. But I mean, quarterbacks obviously very, very famous for doing this. And the best quarterbacks are the best reads who aren't, you know, I'm not saying that they also are not reading the defense as well, but, you know, there are mismatches with running quarterbacks that are much easier to exploit because you're looking for, you know, an opening. And because basically, you know, you can draw people downfield and then run the play. It's a lot harder to do that if you're a pure passing quarterback who's looking for those vulnerabilities. I watch a lot of Apex Legends esports, unfortunately. Last year, a lot of the big teams left the space due to esports winter. Teams like C9 Energy TL, also very famously, I'm adding this myself, Imperial Hal just left TSM, who's like by far the biggest personality in Apex. In the past 2 months, all of these teams have come back conveniently before Esports World Cup. Weird. All the teams that are partners for the Esports World Cup have also signed teams, Falcons and Weibo being the big ones. There are also free agent players signing to orgs just for the EWC event itself. Do you think there will be any other org signing mercenary players for teams, and could this bleed into other esports like FaZe attempting to sign a league team for EWC? Well, FaZe isn't going to do that, obviously, because you have to buy a slot. So that's not a great example. But the answer is yes, this is just going to happen. Like, what you're going to see, guys, is you're going to see teams be like, I really care about StarCraft 2 all of a sudden, and then right after EWC just drop their entire StarCraft 2 roster. Pretty sure this shit's going to happen.
And it'll also be like the fucking RMRs in CS, where people knew if you get into the major, you get the millions from the stickers. People literally, Monty, would run a roster, and then when you failed the qualifier, just drop the team. Like, that'll definitely be what will happen for this too. You'll like they say in the scenario, like if you don't get through the qualifier to EWC, you'll just drop the guy right afterwards. You won't wait and support him for the rest of the year. Why would you?
So unfortunately, the answer is the cynicism will continue, which sucks because I actually really like. I think Apex has the best BR format. Like, I really like the way that they increase excitement by having you win all those points, and then like you just play matches until one of the team who's like at match point basically wins a map, which I think is a very exciting way to end a BR tournament. And I also just love Apex Legends, the game. I just enjoy playing it. So I'm a fan, but sadly many of these teams will probably be dropped. Colin Farrell has now this is actually a good question. Colin Farrell has now starred in 2 terrible remakes of classic films done on 4Play. Those being a 2011 Fright Night remake and a 2012 Total Recall remake. So they did Fright Night, and Colin Farrell was in both of these remakes.
Total Recall, that was bad, but I didn't even know he did a Fright Night. Does he play the super sexy vampire in Fright Night? I'm
of course he must.
Because it must be that casting, surely, right?
Of course he must. If you were film producers and had to do a modern remake of a film done on 4Play with Colin Farrell starring...
He does! He's the super sexy vampire! Holy shit! They actually did put... Holy fuck.
So real? If we had to do a film on 4Play and we were remaking it with Colin Farrell starring, which one would it be? And do you think it could be good? That's a great question.
Well, here's the thing. Here's one thing. I'll put the cards on the table, because first things first, he's making it like a meme. Colin Farrell can be pretty good.
I mean, he
if we
just
pick the right film, he could be good.
I feel like Colin Farrell was on a good trajectory, and then he suffered the Alexander movie, and then like became irrelevant after that. You know what I mean?
Like, I think just in general, I think he can be pretty good.
Yeah. I agree.
To me, he's not exceptional. Like, you can't put him in every movie. He's not like Daniel Day-Lewis or something. But it's more like, I think he goes sort of more by the script than the director. So, I mean, I've seen loads of Colin Farrell movies I enjoyed, like Seven Psychopaths, fucking, obviously, like in Bruges. There's a whole bunch of them.
Oh, yeah,
really
Bruges
good.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, he's been in a bunch. So, immediately, I'm already thinking it has to be something where he can really, like, chew up the scenery and do a lot with the character. We'd have to pick something where he can be like a fucking cool ass thing. What have we done on 4Play so far? Let me think. Because in theory, we want to make it good idea. I actually think it's better if we make it good instead of he just does a shit remake, you know.
I mean, he was even more recently some of these other movies. He was in The Lobster, which was great.
That was all right. Yeah.
He was as far as like.
By the way, The Lobster basically was just like a fucking movie Black Mirror episode. If you've never seen it, guys,
yeah. It's absurdist. It's absurdist comedy. Like it was a different role for him, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
Wait, he was.
All right, I'll give you one right now, Monty.
All
if
right.
you I actually think for real, you could put him in the Jeremy Renner role in Arrival. I think he would kill that role.
I was actually thinking that myself.
That's the sort of role I think he would be really good at for real.
You know what's funny? I didn't even know that he was the Penguin in the latest Batman movie because I haven't seen the latest Batman movie.
One, so okay, fair enough.
I mean,
if eventually, but that doesn't sound great.
Honestly, if we redid Batman Returns, he might not be terrible as Batman.
By the way, I mean, sadly, I'm just doing all the Villeneuve ones. He could also be a bunch of characters in Sicario.
Yeah.
He
could have been the Josh Brolin character in Sicario, I think.
No, I think he's an underrated actor, mate. I think he just did some bad films, that's all.
Yeah, he's done several of the Yorgos Lanthimos movies. I mean, Killing of a Sacred Deer, he was great in as well. So, all right.
Look, I'll tell you what, Monty. I'll even give you an example of where I'll pick one that's silly. I'll bet he could also. Are you ready? He could absolutely tear up that John Travolta role in Face Off. Mate, he'd be firing that. What are you talking about? He'd be firing that role. He would actually kill that role. That'd be better. It might even be better. We'll see.
What are your picks for worst game of the first half of 2024? I will start by nominating C9 versus Shopify Rebellion in their second game, which had an ARAM starting at 30, etc. That was a very bad game. Berserker put like 20 useless callings into tanks, and Dom called the ending. I mean, worst game. I probably didn't see the worst game, guys, if I'm going to be honest, because I skip a lot of the bad games. Of course. So I don't know. That is I didn't see that one. That one was like memorably bad. I mean, some of the FlyQuest games were fucking horrific, especially for the level that they were supposed to be at. You know, like, I don't know, that Busio Rumble game in LCS playoffs gives me nightmares. So it was probably some of the FlyQuest playoff games. Those were really terrible. Suppose Bo were to transfer to an NA team this split. Which NA team would you want him on and why? I mean, he might be interesting on Cloud9. I'm not as in love with Blabber as everyone else is, I guess.
If we're going with an LCS team,
I mean, Shopify Rebellion would be pretty entertaining to have Bo on. It would like bolster some of the bottom, potential of the league.
Look, here's one that, look, I guess this doesn't totally work, but I wouldn't hate him on Team Liquid, mate. Give Core JJ him, let him fucking, it wouldn't work with APA, but Core JJ steering the reins, as it were, would be legit. Because I do think he needs someone to help him with his macro, basically.
Yeah. What is the reason that LoL teams don't have a designated IGL? Well, some of them do. It would make sense if you had an IGL to call late game scenarios like Baron setups and the plan to end the game. I mean, some of them do.
I'll tell you an obvious reason why. There's an obvious reason why, which is that in the game League of Legends, you are hard forced into one of the 5 roles. Remember, even in Dota, they had metas where like there was different, like you could have like 2 junglers, you could, all that shit, right? The problem with League compared to CS is this. In CS, when you talk about in-game leader, you mainly talk about on the T side where you're the attacking force. We can choose where the in-game leader is at all times. I can make him be the guy at the back of the pack. He could be the entry pack. He could be the lurker on the outskirts. So I can choose a million styles of play, personnel. In League, the problem you have is certain roles, like for example, here's an obvious one, guys. How many times have you ever heard for real about like an elite team having a top lane IGL shot caller? Almost never. Like the closest
because they're not looking at the map.
They're not. That's what I mean, though.
They're not looking at
the
map. So
the problem is, I think compared to other games, it just doesn't make as much sense. Like it's a lot hard. Essentially, you pretty much have to have your shot caller be basically the support nowadays, right?
Or jungle.
Sort of in League.
Yeah. I mean, Peanut is like a hard IGL, right?
Those feel like the roles that are sort of like you're kind of a fool if you don't take that as your shot caller almost,
Right. And also it's like you may have players with different strengths on your team. Like Perks very famously did a lot of the calling out of the mid lane, right? And he made, Faker, for example, right now is doing a lot of calling out of the mid lane. But it's hard if you don't have a position that can really influence the map, like top lane, in order to do it out of that, or AD carry, where you're mostly just following up other people's, engages. If you are not in a position that can make engages, it's very difficult, I think. And I disagree with the sense that some teams don't have a designated IGL. Like Gen G, when they had Peanut, definitely had a designated IGL, guys. Definitely.
Thorin being
Faker,
FPX, there's some obvious ones.
Faker
JJ,
right now, like, come on.
Yeah.
Yes. So it just depends on if you have that guy in your team, basically.
But I will say, I do think the biggest flaw in League that we've all learned through roster construction, I think actually is how a lot of the super teams failed, Monty, is when you make a super team that is super team players, but you don't put in the shot caller. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is what happened to Cloud9 last split. I think Cloud9 had
their shot calling was terrible.
But they just didn't have the mind to harness it all,
No, it was terrible. And it was weird, too, because you would have thought that some of those players... I mean, I think you really realized what Sven did for that roster out of support, even though he wasn't individually a great support player. He felt very limited on a lot of his picks. I think his voice was important. Shout out to Richard Lewis for the massive battle royale. He's starting with the teams who took the Saudi stipend. It is funny. You have to choose one of these teams to win a best of 5 for your life. The team you don't choose is your opponent. Okay. The teams are a Korean-speaking 2023 bin. Okay, sorry. 2023 bin. We're going to assume they can all speak the same language. You have to pick one of these teams that
you mean
for our
BLG?
Life. So, no, sorry. He's making the rosters with players. 2023 bin.
Oh, right.
2020 Canyon. 2015 Faker. 2023 Ruler. And 2022 Carrier. Or
in theory, he's trying to pick the best year of each team.
All right. I'm going to make it this simpler. We're going to say peak. Peak bin. Peak Canyon, Peak Faker, Peak Ruler, Peak Carrier, or
that's
Peak Smeb, Peak Peanut, Peak Chovy, Peak Uzi, and Peak Mad Life.
Patches. The worst thing he's done there is he's done like we had him in the first half or whatever. Because on the one hand, that first team sounds amazing, but he's put so many of the players I'm biased towards in the second team that I think I might be a hater and just pick the second team. You know what I mean?
The patch is
They're
also
both pretty good teams.
The patch is the 2023 Worlds patch.
They're both fire teams.
I think the thing is like Peak Peanut and Peak Mad Life are just not as good as Peak Carrier and Peak Canyon. That's the problem, is that when I can actually get more recent players for the most part, then I think Peak Chovy, this year's Chovy.
The problem is, I also think certain players there don't work as well. Like, for example, I'm assuming, unfortunately, people think Peak Peanut means when he's a shot caller, but to me, Peak Peanuts was the guy with the amazing hands.
He did say 2016 Peanut, to be clear.
So there's more like the one with the hands then.
It
means more that era, before the shot calling era. Okay.
I think I take.
Who was the mid laner of the second team? Who was the mid laner of the second team?
2024 Chovy.
The problem is, though, the skill on that second team is bonkers, man.
It is. It's good. It's a good division of players. I think this guy picked some good ones.
No, it's a pretty well set up question.
The teams will have a full 6 months to train to allow for the past players to learn the new champions and matchups. Okay, that's important. I think I picked the first team, but this is good. I think you picked some pretty balanced teams here in terms of peak players. I like it. Is it just me, or has the stock value of solo kills dropped over the years? I mean, yes, it has, especially because now if you get solo kills and you get ahead of your opponents, you create bounties, right?
By the way, here's an obvious reason why. Because in the early years of League, like, a gank means the jungler has to actually work with the player in the lane. Sometimes now the jungler just kills you straight up. Like, junglers and supports weren't as strong for the first 4 or 5 years, exactly. Guys. Like, that role was very different. Like, now, strong. Like, think about Milky Way, just comes in and fucks you up personally. Like, never mind.
They were just buying wards and, like, potions to
think about
kill
Monty.
wards.
Could you even imagine? This is what would actually make people think like the game dies in the future. If I went back to 2013 and showed them what like Pyke can do in the game from support, their brains would just like melt and come out their ears, mate. Like that would be insane. He could get a pentakill, a fucking support champion.
Yeah. So solo kills. I mean, also there have been a bunch of other changes. So like teleport being meta on top and mid has also, you could just TP back to lane and not lose your way. Like the punishment is just way worse, and you can get it back through bounties. So, I mean, they've literally created a bunch of rubber band mechanics in this game, and pro players have figured out that teleport is necessary to minimize damage in these situations. What is your all-time favorite shit post from our friend ButtPounder420? I don't know if I have one off the top of my head.
The problem is the best ones in theory are the ones you were never able to read out because there was some like really offensive joke about 9/11 or some shit. Like,
that's
shit
true.
Like that.
Yeah, there's probably some degenerate 4chan stuff that's very funny, but we can't say on this show because we have sponsors.
Wait, I actually thought the question was, what is your favorite shit post from ButtPounder420? Not like your favorite shit post, comma, from, or what? I thought it was like it's supposed to be from him. Because by the way, that's basically his style is doing shit posts.
Yeah, I know. What is your favorite, your all-time favorite shit post in general?
Ooh, let me think. Let me think on that one, because there's been some bangers. Like, put it this way, I will say 4chan has the same concept as like YouTube comments. Half the time it's shit, but every now and then it does almost like elevate one really good joke to the top, doesn't it? You get a banger one. So there have been some good ones for sure. There have been some good ones.
Do you think professional League of Legends would be better or worse without teleport being a near... Well, how convenient that we just got this question. Without teleport being a near permanent choice in solo lanes. No, because I like macro. So I like teleport.
Maxi, are you ready? You know what? I'm going to go the other way. If y'all all just want to force me to do shit I don't like, I want to make a suggestion. Fearless Draft 2.0. You're not allowed to use the same summoner spells you had in the last game. What? Sorry, no. Don't make any arguments. Don't make arguments about that's the same logic. I'm going to force you to be more diverse. I'm going to force you to learn new things. And by the way, bring back clairvoyance too, just to be a prick at the end. Whatever.
You have to pick the game you play Flash in. That would be amazing.
Exactly. There you go. That's it. By the way, that is what it originally was supposed to be like. You were supposed to have Flash every game, Monty. So there we go. Let's do it. Let's bring it back. Let's do it.
But I like.
You can only have teleport for one game, one for one champion.
I like TP because I don't really care about Ignite getting a solo kill. I care about TP. Look, if you guys want to watch a player run for 15 seconds across the map in the late game, be my guest. I think that shit's horrible. I would rather see a 5 versus 5 team fight at the Baron than watch T1 just sneak a Baron every single game because it takes forever to run across the map. That sounds boring to me. So, a recent Reddit thread actually posed an interesting question. Shocking. If you could give past players in their prime before 2016 a recent champion, who would you pick? For example, imagine if Elite 2014 ADCs had Zeri available to them. Well, the answer is you just put some crazy-ass champions in Faker's hands from when he was like in 2014 or 2015 when he was just insanely above everybody else mechanically and in terms of champion pool, right?
I mean, the joke is, unironically, you might actually give like Prime Faker broken Cassante, right? Wouldn't he just be fucking bonkers on that champion? Think about all the resets and fucking be insane, wouldn't he? Decision making, that would actually probably be the ultimate champion, no joke.
There was a time, guys, when a new champion would come out, and the first thought anyone would ever have is, I wonder how Faker's going to play this. It was a great time.
Yep.
LZK seems to still have a slight edge on LPL based on recent international results. Are there any reasons outside of the server that you could think contribute to this? I think possibly it's just Korean infrastructure has been there for longer, and so a lot of the systems that are in place with Korean teams are like or that are in place in Korean culture tend to be better. Also, just I think probably living conditions in general are overall better in Korea, especially better in Seoul than in most other, even though these teams are very rich and I'm sure they treat their players very well. But I also think it's just, Korean culture is just very discipline oriented. And I'm not going to comment on Chinese culture, but I think that probably plays a big part in it as well.
I've always felt like, as weird as this might sound, that actually an angle that Koreans had an advantage in is I always felt like they had a better mental fortitude in the game. Because in the past, I would have just said the obvious reason is one team has Koreans and Chinese and the other one's just Korean. So it's just all being from the same country. But that doesn't even apply. Like BLG and TES are Chinese teams, Monty. So what I would say instead is this. I've just found over time that the weirdest thing about the LPL is they either are like the best teams from there or they can just have the team that completely mentally fundamentally breaks down. Like, to this day, we've never seen anything comparable to like those FPX failures at Worlds, top esports. Like, no Korean top seed ever did anything like that, Monty. Like, they've had a failure for a top Korean seed is you go out in the quarterfinals. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's
they're
like
very
failure.
consistent in terms of getting into
I do feel
bracket.
like their sort of ability to just perform is generally better. Whereas I feel like the Chinese teams were always more of like, it's more of a crapshoot. You either get like the fucking hard hit, like holy shit, or you just crap out completely, you know?
Yeah, I also think that, part of what was holding the Korean teams back previously was an unwillingness to take risk. They would only do like the 100% play, and they would, I mean, we all saw Canyon play fucking Trundle in a game 5 of Worlds. Like, nobody wants to see Jin Yumi in that situation. You know what I mean? It's just trash. Like, they would be very risk averse, but I think the Koreans have kind of knocked themselves out of that mentality. I mean, look at what Genji was playing in these files. It's like, fuck it, Karthus first, right? Let's play farm champion for Canyon. And that now in the LPL, like, you're seeing that more, and we saw it be a very high win rate in Korean solo queue even during the MSI, but pro teams weren't playing it. So I think there are examples of this where it feels like Korean teams are being more willing to take risks. And they're calculated risks, like they're risks that have the odds of going in their favor, but they wouldn't do things previously that were considered risky, like whatsoever. And I think that was holding them back. And the Chinese teams were much more willing to do that. So, but anyway, that's not outside of the server. I don't know how many. I don't know enough, I think, about LPL team conditions to really say.
I'll give you a random theory craft as well. Here's one for you. I also wonder if the fact that Korean solo queue is still the gold standard doesn't help, because the difference is I got the vibe from some of the stories I've heard about Chinese solo queue, like they're a bit more lax with people just doing shady shit, like just fucking win trading and into you on purpose and just being beer. I feel like in Korean solo queue, I mean, remember that Faker story from a few months ago? Like they
banned all of Vietnam. They banned all of Vietnam.
Exactly. So I feel like they probably do a better job curating a really good solo queue environment, you know?
Yeah, that's probably true. Imagine if instead of the Faker skin being Riot's newest overpriced NFT, no, it's worse than an NFT because you don't actually own it. Like, let's be clear, guys. You might hate NFTs, but
and you can't sell it.
The prototype NFTs were Counter-Strike skins, by the way. I don't understand this, Thorin. People get so mad about NFTs, but wouldn't you rather have an NFT than just pay $500 where if they shut down League of Legends, you just don't fucking own it anymore? Or if they ban your account, you just don't fucking own it anymore? Like, at least with Counter-Strike skins, there's resale value.
This is how bad fans are, Monty, for not knowing when something in principle is the same. They all hated on Henry G because he did some NFT shit, going, you're just scamming kids. As you just said, Monty, in Counter-Strike, you can have like a $500 skin that if you get banned, you don't own the skin anymore. Sorry, what's the scam again? What's the scam with the NFT? By the way, you do notice as well, the difference between the skin in League and an NFT is you can sell the NFT. I still don't get to this day why you're all cool with the fact you can't sell your League skins, by the way. Like that, to me, that's also mind-blowing, you know what I mean? But whatever, it is what it is, I guess.
Well, I mean, look, I think Counter-Strike has a good system, but which is also why it justifies having those skins, because they can also increase in value, right, in Counter-Strike. If you have those old stickers on your gun from the major from 10 years ago, you know, those have more value now. Like, it's a fun collectible that you can enjoy, and when you're done with it, if you need
I can't lie, Monty. There's someone once pointed this out to me, and it actually tilted me because I realized, shit, you're so right. Which is in the early days of CSGO, there was obviously fuck all people used to stream back then, right? And if you streamed, you didn't even have to be super famous, Monty. As long as you were a personality in the scene, I mean, famously, a lot of the female players did this. If you streamed, dude, you could literally do what some of the girl streamers did, where they were like, oh, guys, I've got all these cases and no keys. And they're all of a sudden like, oh my God, you're all sending me the keys. Thank you. So I'll open them immediately. And basically, for free, these idiots, instead of donating on Twitch, would just give you like cases and keys. You would open them on stream, and then you had the skins. And what I realized is, at the time, I was like, man, I don't care about skins. And someone pointed out, yeah, but if you'd have just done that for like 6 months in like 2014, your like inventory now would just be like 40k or something just for free. You could have just had like 40k for free from fans. So I didn't think that through. I can't lie. That's like, you know, that's like that shit where you chose not to buy Bitcoin for like $10 or whatever back in the day. Like, obviously, if I could go back now, I might make a different decision on that one. It's true. It's true. Because some of those skins and stickers are fucking mental how much they cost now. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, like the question is, it's a player. So imagine instead of the Faker skin being Riot's new overpriced NFT, it is a player in NA in 2016 with the same bump up in quality. Well, I mean, like Bjergsen probably would have sold like gangbusters in 2016, like a Bjergsen skin at that time.
Like a Bjergsen Syndra skin or fucking something like that, yeah.
Zillion.
Problem with that is no one plays it though, so surely no one would buy it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
the Syndrome one would be yeah. Anyway, the rest
Jensen
of
Oriana or something.
the rest of the question's kind of a meme one, but I actually get tilted about questions like this because like people hate NFTs, but NFTs are objectively, I think, quite good for games, and you can see that because Counter-Strike basically pioneered NFTs for games. And what's bad about that? You buy something you can then later resell. What's bad about that? It's way better than other skins in other games. What former members of the esports scene would you bring back in their prime to have the most positive influence on the industry? So who is out of the scene now? Who we would bring back?
The problem with that is it's going to be hard to know who's really not in. So I'm just going to pick people out in the spotlight. How about that, Monty?
Yeah,
because the obvious people you would pick are it's the people who are all in the Hall of Fame. It's like Boxer and Fatality. Like these people were like the ultimate ambassadors of the game.
How about, well, I'll pick one. Adam Apicella, who is currently not in the scene, but who I think is, I mean, he ever since Esports Engine got bought, no, he's just not doing anything. He's just chilling. But I mean, I would love to have Adam Apicella from MLG back in the scene. You know, I think that'd be great.
It would be cool if we had Slasher and Jacob Wolf. Imagine if Jacob Wolf had ever gone into esports. That could
it's really a shame that Destiny isn't in the esports scene anymore.
Yeah, I used to like that old Astralis support player. Right? So... Or did you mean the ultimate of TF? My bad.
Yeah, exactly. Richard mentioned that he is a fan of Star Trek. Maybe there could be a Nerd Legion episode with Richard about one of the good Star Trek shows.
That would be a good one, by the way. He's watched loads of them.
So I think one of the things that I want to do in the future is actually do some DS9 content with Richard. Because I think Richard and I could have some very interesting, like, because
he's also seen all of Next Generation.
I've seen all of that
he's
too.
He's kind of a historian about that shit.
Yeah.
Too.
So I mean, but I think Richard and I both really love Deep Space Nine. I think he and I could probably do some really great content around that show, because I think both of us probably seen it all 3 or 4 times, which is crazy because that's like, I mean, that show is like 7 episodes of 26 45-minute long episodes, so it's a fucking long show. And I think we've both seen it multiple times. So I think in the future, if I have a bit more time, like, it would be really fun for me and Richard to do something like that. I would enjoy it very much. And also I think people would enjoy it just generally, because I haven't seen a lot of there's a lot of next gen content out there, and like I know Red Letter Media has done a bunch of next gen stuff, but I don't think there's been as much like DS9 content, even though it's a better show. Who wins for most corrupt out of I don't even know how to answer this. LAPD, NIPD, NYPD, Metropolitan Police, or Frankie Ward? Every time I watch Total Recall, I think of every time I think of Total Recall, I think of Frankie Ward as the taxi driver. I got 5 kids.
That's a pretty good joke. I can't lie.
That's a pretty fire joke.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
All right, that's a meme question. Good. All right, what are your thoughts on older champs having both AD and AP scaling, or builds that are different from what was envisioned? Tank Echo, AP Nautilus, Corki. Why do you think that Riot always strikes these alternate builds out of the meta?
Classic one, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason is because stat items are the core of League of Legends balance, and so it gets really fucked up. I will say one of my favorite things about casting that mobile game Vangler, which was actually a very good MOBA, was that basically their equivalent of AP and AD builds were viable on most of the characters in that game, which made actually itemization way more interesting in that game than in League of Legends,
right? For
the most part. Like, the thing about League is, like, once you solve a build, it's kind of just like done, because this whole game is just stats. And so, you know, they don't want people to like invent whack ass builds. They're very against that. And also these builds have, you know, if you can figure it out, if you can crack the code, sometimes these builds end up being very broken. And so I think they just want to eliminate the risk of that happening by like pushing champs into not only AP or AD, but specific roles on the map.
I was never a big fan of it. And the main reason why is because, sadly, this is why LS was sort of right the whole time. Like, once you've mathematically figured out the most efficient build, or the build that does the most like damage or shielding or whatever, right? You probably should just do that pick every time. Whereas I want it to be more like a game of like old school StarCraft Brood War, where if in the game what I see you doing means my original tech path doesn't make sense, I can like switch up and do a different approach. And now like if I'm Protoss, suddenly I go like fucking Arbiters instead of like whatever, the fucking Dragoons, and drop in the fucking Dark Templar or whatever. So I just don't like the idea that like you say, it just becomes super cookie cutter. Like essentially you're almost an idiot at the end if you don't do the best build. Like I want it to be where like people actually do think on their third item, like what do I need right now in the game? What would help me get the Baron or stop a push? So I want it to be more like strategical.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, it happens a little bit, but not as much as other games. In the last episode, you discussed how the increase of best of 5 games has upped the performance of the LCK. Sadly for the LEC, we've not seen a similar increase in performance. Despite having more best of 5s and meaningful series than ever before, the region hasn't looked this weak in years. Well, it's bad GMing, dude. Surely the format.
By the way, he's actually factually wrong. There are not more best of 5s.
There's more best of 3s.
Yeah, because remember, the problem is the format now goes in like this.
Right.
So if you remember, the old LCS format with the BO1s had a whole playoff bracket of best of 5s. You had loads of them. You actually have less now.
So I think...
Sorry, Susie, if you were best of 5. I'll give her credit. This is how you know she was a good teacher, buddy. She's the only person who made me learn that rule. It's a fair play. I can't lie. I do think of her every time I fuck it up. I go, sorry, fewer, not less. It's okay. You got me on that one. You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Look, I don't. Here's the other problem with your question is you're assuming that it wouldn't be even worse with a different format. It's possible that LEC could be even worse if they didn't switch to more best of series. But honestly, I think a lot of the LEC's problems are just bad GMing. It's not like they lack good players. They're just all scattered and put in weird places on weird teams. And like, you know, players that were good got moved off of good teams like Odo Omne and then fell off and they're now benched. And I guess we just don't get to see Odo Omne anymore. So it feels weird the way that teams are being made in Europe. And unfortunately also we've had players like Perks, who are among the greatest of all time, suddenly fall off and no longer be on teams. And we haven't seen like the rise of the next generation of players yet. So it's just a bad time for Europe. But I mean, you're really going to be that sad? Like G2 looks really fucking good. Like honestly, guys, I would trade
one of the best we've ever had. Yeah.
I would trade every other team in Europe being complete dog shit to have one good team that's a top 4 team in the world like they were at MSI.
That's actually the bummer about the only bummer about the results of MSI. Even though I actually think, by the way, the results in general were pretty indicative. It's that if you actually were to look spiritually at those games, G2 probably should have beaten T1 and been ahead of them in the placings. Like I actually think, sadly, because G2 didn't manage to win either of the T1 series, people don't seem to acknowledge like this G2 lineup is clearly one of the best Western teams ever to play League of Legends.
Yes.
Like look, they're not as good as the 2019 one, but they're not far off. Like they're pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I agree. And especially because
I'm with you. I'll give up all. I don't give a shit what the third best LEC team is. If I get to have a team like that can actually beat T1, fuck it. I'll make that deal all day long. I'm with you.
Here's the other thing: 2019 MSI was much easier to win than current MSI, and this G2 was still top 4. Yes. So I think it's a very respectable finish. Like they clearly proved that they are a world class team. There's a fan wondering about the Reckless video. Do you have any updates on the Reckless video?
I should never have told people to do it. It will come out. You'll see.
It will. All right. There you go.
The problem with that, essentially, the only reason I've delayed it is I don't want to half-ass that one. I want to get it done properly, you know, so
fair enough.
It'll come out.
Are you excited about Stormgate? And is there a possibility for it to gather the small RTS audience and somewhat revive the scene? Look, I want a new RTS. Like, obviously, I'm super biased because I come from RTS and I really love RTS, and I would love nothing more than there to be a big RTS. I am hopeful about Stormgate. My problem with Stormgate is just that it doesn't feel new, which is why I prefer Sunspear's game, Gates of Pyre, right? Which is that it really... The IP itself is like, it's a bunch of old Blizzard developers who just created StarCraft and Diablo together. Like it's literally Demons in Space, which they already did. A bunch of old Blizzard devs already did with Hellgate London. What I don't understand about devs who leave Blizzard is why they can't come up with any new creative ideas about IP. Like why do all of them just make StarCraft and Diablo again and then put them together? Or Warcraft again? Like can any of you think up any ideas? Like
I'll tell you a cynical reason. The cynical reason, there's 2. One, I've got bad news for you guys. This is going to really hurt all your feelings. The people who made the Blizzard and the id Software and all those old games that we all love, they aren't the people now who are leaving. The people now are the bad Simpsons writers who were fans of The Simpsons and then joined The Simpsons in season 10. Like, you want the original ones who were geniuses who came up with the original concept, Monty. The guy who joined Blizzard and left over the last few years, that's just some fucker who joined a company that isn't a games company. It's a company that makes StarCraft and Diablo. Like you're saying, it's just making more of the fucking classic franchises. And then secondly, I'll tell you the really cynical reason I think they're doing that, Monty. Because I think they look at those games and see them as some of the greatest games of all time that will endure forever. And they think, I wish I owned that instead of just being a guy who had a credit on it. But what they don't understand is this. You're never actually going to be bigger than fucking Dota and Diablo and StarCraft. You're never going to get, like, that ship sailed. Like, those are the biggest games in that genre. So unfortunately, I just don't think it can work. I think it's a naive idea to think, if I made a better version of StarCraft now, I could have the biggest games. You won't. You won't, though, will it? Come on.
Look,
I'm with you. If anything, you should be trying to invent a new genre, so right? You should be trying to go for the new horizon.
I think, I mean, yeah, but I nostalgically want a good RTS, right? And because I just like RTS and I want to see it.
It's still out there. You can still buy all the old games, boot them up, get your friend to play.
Yeah.
What you want is this, Monty. You secretly want to make everyone else play an RTS game. Now, how are you going to do that? I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe make like ransomware in League Vanguard so that you can only unlock it by playing Warcraft 3.
Here's the thing, Thorin. But I don't have to solve that problem. They have to solve that problem. The companies that are making the RTS games are the ones that have to solve the problem of how do you get everybody. True. I hope one of them solves that problem. It's not going to be me. When it happens, I'll be there for it, though. It'll be great. So do I think it will happen? I think probably Stormgate has the best chance. I think the mechanics of Stormgate are interesting, but there's like a lot of different RTSs, like Immortal, Gates of Pyre that I mentioned. There's some other ones that have been announced recently that look interesting. So maybe one of them will be able to cobble together a decently sized audience. Do I think it will ever be as big as team-based esports ever again? No. But I think perhaps it could be very interesting. And I think it could be sustainable with a large enough audience. Okay, oh boy. I've been kicking around a nickname for Bwippo, playing off the split nature of his gameplay. Most of the time he treats top lane as a science with sound logic for everything he does. However, he occasionally completely loses his mind and plays like a possessed ape. I've started referring to these people as Dr. Bwippo and Mr. Wide. That's pretty funny. That actually is pretty funny. There's no question. That is funny, though.
I have one thought on that, though, which is this. I'll actually make this a very reasonable point because I want people to actually think about all of our behavior. I will say the flaw that you're describing there might seem ridiculous because in Bwippo, it's especially exaggerated, right? If he was on broadcast or on a stream, he'd seem super intellectual as he broke down the macro. But when he plays, you'd think he never ever used his conscious brain. You think he just played off pure animal instinct, right? Well, here's the thing that I hope will be an epiphany for some of you. That's all of us. It's why when we all watch the best teams play, we can all see them making mistakes. But if we played, we would play even worse. Because when you actually play, you're not able to analyze in that big picture perspective of how you do when you're just watching the game. When you play, you're sort of in the moment and you're reacting to stimuli and you're just coming up with short-term plans and you're doing things just instinctively, like I say. So I think even though with Bwippo it's funny, I actually think that's just a really extreme version of what we're all doing. It's why we can all see that like Jensen fucked up a laning phase, but he would destroy any of us in a laning phase. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And obviously making decisions in the game is much harder. And I think one thing that's great about Bwippo is he can be very creative on the fly, but the double-edged sword of that is that sometimes he will outsmart himself, right? He's also very emotional. And so I think like when he feels like he has to carry, he does too much. All right, last question. This is the very last one. We've gone through all of them. Because of the $500 scam and the Hall of Legends losing any respect that it could have, if you can choose one player for every position to be the first inducted, what players do you choose and why? And why can't we have our own Summoning Insight Hall of Fame? Well, we can, guys. There's nothing that says we can't. Maybe we do that. It'd be great to have a sponsor for that. Because I think, one of the things that Thor and I have talked about is doing an Esports Hall of Fame. But what we want to do is the ideal way to do it is to get a sponsor for it and do in-person interviews. So what would happen is like you get the inductees to fly to a location for a week, all of them, and you interview them one by one, and basically then you edit in their careers, and then you release it like one a month over the course of the rest of the year. Like that would be
and there's
the
a $500
scenario.
skin associated with it as well. So.
So, I mean, cynically, yes, like we would want a sponsor to pay for that, right? But it would be super cool to do like a studio in person. Like if you really want to honor them, you want the production quality to be there. And the way to do it economically is to rent a space for a week, have all those people come in, and actually do a real interview and a real presentation of their career that could then be, you know, polished and edited. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about that. We just need money. So thank you for contributing with your Discord subscription. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. But anyway, you can choose one player for every position to be the first inductable. It's obviously Faker in the mid lane. For jungle, I mean, I'm picking Score. Obviously, for top lane, who would be the first to be inducted?
As in of all of history, wouldn't it be like Smeb probably? The Shy? These got to be the main two candidates, right?
Yeah, probably one of those two would be the first. Because like Flame had a very brief peak.
It depends if we're doing it again. If we're doing it in chronological order, it probably should be Flame, right? Flame or the original Shy. They're probably or Mac Noon or something, you know. These people could all be in the mix, right?
Yeah. Score, maybe not for jungle originally. You might pick somebody like Insec, actually, for that position.
Diamond Prox, obviously.
Diamond Prox is another good one. Faker probably is the first one for mid lane though, because you're probably not picking Ambition, you know, for that one previously. And the other Worlds winners were not super. I mean, Toys had a very brief peak. Who else for AD care? Who'd be the first?
Wei Zhao. Come on.
Yeah, probably.
It's got to be Wei Zhao, right?
And then the first support player would be Mad Life.
But just to piss people off, I'll just say this because it's a piece of trivia as well. What about Name? You're all going to go, whoa, for calm down. To this day, Name, most titles ever from ADC in the LPL. Suck on that. If you don't know, guys, to this day, Name hasn't played a pro game since like 2016. Name still has more LPL titles than Uzi.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Because Uzi only ever won 2, mate. Literally ever. He won both in 1 year, 2018. That's it. He's never won another LPL title. It's actually the player where, unironically, the difference between who people think Uzi is and who he was is the biggest gap I've seen of anything in the league. Except one day Faker. Yeah, whatever. Next question.
That's it. It's the last one.
All right. There we go.
All right, guys. That'll be it for this week. We'll be back for another show, of course, next week with matches to talk about. Fresh.
Probably on Monday, right? Probably on Monday this time.
Yeah. We're Tuesday, maybe?
We can do Tuesday if you want. We need to figure out a day again, though, and go back to the regular
one. We got to get back to our regular schedule, guys. It was Tuesday this last spring.
Oh, we can do Tuesdays if you want. Yeah, okay, go for that then.
So we will figure it out for you guys and watch our social media accounts, and we'll sort it out, pick a day for the rest of the split, and we'll see you then.